Alrighty, welcome to episode 136 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Tesla has released a 41-page white paper outlining the details of its master plan Part 3. This paper follows on from its 1st of March presentation, which outlined a proposed path to reach a sustainable global energy economy through end-use electrification and sustainable electricity generation and storage. This paper outlines the assumptions, sources and calculations behind that proposal. Tesla has announced that JB Straubel is set to return following a board of directors vacancy. In a statement, Tesla said, "Board has nominated JB Straubel to succeed Mr. Mizuno as a Class 1 director. Mr. Straubel joined Tesla in 2004 and spent 14 years as our Chief Technology Officer, where he played a key role in our battery cell design and engineering and production. Mr. Straubel also led the construction and concept of Gigafactory Nevada and the production ramp of our Model 3. After his departure from Tesla in 2019, Mr. Straubel founded Redwood Materials Inc., which is dedicated to building a circular supply chain to power a sustainable world and accelerate the reduction of fossil fuels. We believe that Mr. Straubel's extensive operational experience in senior leadership at the company, combined with his engineering expertise and passion for clean tech, will make him an important asset in our mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy." Tesla executive Tom Zhu has been formally appointed as Tesla's Senior Vice President of Automotive. Tesla wrote in its formal listing that Mr. Zhu joined Tesla in April 2014 and served in various operational roles before being appointed as Vice President, Greater China, where he led the construction and operations of Gigafactory Shanghai. Mr. Zhu holds a bachelor's degree in Commerce and Information Technology from the Auckland University of Technology and an MBA from Duke University. Tesla has formally announced its annual shareholder meeting, which it has stated will occur on Wednesday the 17th of May at 4 a.m. Perth time at its global headquarters at Gigafactory Austin in Texas. Tesla seems to have quietly introduced variable supercharging pricing across its locations in Australia. The span of charging costs range from 50 cents per kilowatt hour at Eaton up to 64 cents per kilowatt hour at Margaret River and Williams. Tesla has announced the commencement of a project to construct a mega factory in Shanghai capable of producing 10,000 megapack commercial energy storage units per annum. Starlink has thrown down the gauntlet in Australia's remote area satellite internet market by now offering its hardware at a heavily discounted $199. Interestingly, Starlink's definition of a rural area seems quite generous, with suburbs as close as Hillary's and Sorrento, a mere 18 kilometres from Perth CBD, being eligible for the substantial discount. Tesla has reduced the cost of Powerwall in Australia by $1,699 to $12,900 plus installation. This is the second time in 2 months that the cost of Powerwall has reduced. As late as February this year, Powerwall cost $16,230. And that was this week's news. Indeed it was, and welcome everyone to another episode of Ask Us Anything. As is customary, if anyone is new, please do unmute yourselves and say hello.
Good evening. My name's Dennis. We
Hey,
have
Dennis.
thank you. We have a beautiful red Model 3 we've had since November.
Very good. And tell us about it. It's red, goes like a rocket, goes faster, of course, because it is red.
Of course, yeah. It's the basic one which we bought. We ordered February last year, a long time to come, and but we have the newer style of battery, which takes 100% charge.
Yep.
We've got the charger cable included. We've got heating in the back seats and the front seats. Apparently we've got quite a good package. So I was told.
Absolutely. And for every Tesla that anyone buys, each subsequent variant becomes better and better. And the great thing is that your car will actually get better with age, because it'll come with various software updates that will bring new features that haven't even been thought of yet. So it always gets better.
Okay. I notice I haven't got camera working. I'm not sure how to do that.
Oh, that's on Zoom, yes. I'll let you work on that, Dennis, but welcome in any case. Anyone else that's new that would like to say hello? Or perhaps a little bit later on. So it's always good. We always end it's sort of like, I don't know how you describe it. It's like golf. You're always bound to fail. We're always going to have a pregnant pause at the end of people introducing themselves. But anyway, there was another bit of news that sort of made it, and it's interesting that Russell Bell just joined us. But the bit of news is that hopefully you can see that rather dirty looking car. Doesn't
Is that
look that
yours?
special. I don't, I'm
I think
not
it's mine,
sure. I
Harold, I think.
don't think so. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't actually check my VIN, but
That's my one there. I checked it already.
that one there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, very good, Russell. So these are some Model Ys. I took this photo, I think it was yesterday. It's all a blur. Yeah, it was yesterday. And these are some of the Model Y performance cars whose first official deliveries will be on Tuesday.
Oh, cool.
So, Russell, perhaps you might want to tell us your delivery story.
Well, not much of a story, but I can try to fill a bit of time if you're that desperate.
Yeah, why not? I mean, I could have got ChatGPT to say Tesla performance deliveries start Tuesday, write a 1,000 word essay explaining that in detail.
No, I got a text message maybe around 5 o'clock this afternoon, maybe a bit earlier, maybe 4:30 or something, just to log in and select a delivery slot. And there was 2 days available, Tuesday and I think Thursday was the other day, I can't quite remember. And then on that Tuesday, there was a 10 a.m. and a 3 p.m. time slots available. So I've scheduled mine for 10 a.m. on Tuesday. So anyone who wants to have a drag race in Osborne Park around about that time, feel free to head down that way and we can sort something out.
So
I think
you're saying there's drags at
I'll be
Osborne
sick,
Park
eh?
at 10 o'clock?
I'll call in sick on Tuesday.
Yeah. If they give me enough battery to do that, that is, because hopefully I don't have to charge up before I head home, but I should be fine.
Oh, actually, I've got Richard Cooper's just sent me an email saying that I've got a link to select a schedule. So I might do that live later on because he's not here with us, so I have to pick it up on his behalf. So yeah, Russell, maybe we could pick up Richard Cooper's Model Y. We could go for a fang in that instead. Get some track mode happening.
I think isn't the tradition with Richard's vehicles you need to crash him shortly after you pick him up. So
Yes,
Yeah.
I've got to rupture one of his tires. I forget which one it is.
5 kilometers is all he goes for.
Yes. Okay.
Well, you'll actually get a choice of two. You can either rupture a tyre or just flip the car on its roof.
I might just check that he's got it actually insured before I flip it on its roof, perhaps. Dearie
Nice to see
me.
that.
Very, very good. Yeah, so that's obviously big news. That's the first time that Model Y performance cars are being delivered into WA, well, ever. So it's going to be pretty awesome seeing these cars do 0 to 100 in, is it 3.8 seconds? 3.7?
3.7.
3.7?
I thought it was 3.9, wasn't it?
Or 3.9? I actually thought 3.9, but
3.7 is what they're saying.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
It's
okay.
3.7. Yeah.
That's probably with the 1 foot rollout, or maybe not, who knows. But they're still awesome. Now, since we're at the start of the show, I might just flick up this QR code, mainly for the benefit of people watching on YouTube. So this is actually a QR code for a WA government-sponsored survey of WA EV owners. And it's mainly revolves around charging and how you charge your car and basically the reasons why you bought your EV and any concerns you might have about your EV. So again, for the benefit of those watching on YouTube, please do scan that code. You
I
can
just
just do it on
scanned
your
it with
phone.
some crypto scam page. Is that what you did?
Yeah, well, I didn't mean, you might be supposed to do it now, Russell. I was supposed
sorry,
to change
block
that
out
URL later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's for the benefit of people on YouTube. I'll actually put that URL in the chat. And what we can also do is I can actually show you what it does. So it is an anonymous survey. So when you actually get onto it, you basically see this page, and it says it takes 7 to 10 minutes. I'll just sort of very quickly just go through it. I won't actually complete it, but if you put in your email address, which you don't have to, you can get into a prize draw for a $100 voucher. So when you start it, it basically just says, let's just say 6,000 postcode, and I'll say whatever my age is, can't remember, and whether you're male or female, and whether you have a house, and do you drive? Well, yes, and you obviously you drive an EV, and then I'll tell you what sort, and I can't remember. I think, oh yeah, here we go, medium car. I don't know if there's a Model Y actually.
It's a bit dumb.
Same, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
It's just EG though, just for example.
Yeah. Oh well, let's
Would,
just
would
go.
it be like? Would it
It'd be like
classify as a medium
small.
SUVs or small
You
SUVs?
can actually just go. You can go.
Oh yeah, you're right. Something like either small or medium.
Tesla Model Y, and then you can go next, and whether you do it for work or whatever. So you might just say commuting for work, and for the trip selected, usual time, so 20 minutes. And then if you're buying a car, you're how likely are to purchase an EV? Well, already have one. And this is interesting. So it's what are your main motivations, and you just rank them. So for my case, I just put technological innovations, performance benefits, energy independence. Whatever you can do that, and criteria that that need to be addressed prior to purchase. So whether it's range, price, safety, place to do daily charging. So you just basically rank those. You just drag them and drop them. We'll just go like that. And different source of information you use to basically suss out what you how you did research. So I think I just said it was the website, EV Brands official websites, and how you manage your energy at home, all the options that apply. So, fixed tariff, solar PV, battery storage, whatever. And you go on, anyway, we'll go on and on. I won't finish the whole lot, but I actually might as well. So primary thing, home, next. How many times do you charge? 6 times a week, because plug in nearly every day, and it's during daylight hours. And top 3 factors determine when you charge. So, battery's low, solar panels are generating, and, perhaps when you're I think one was on a road trip, when I'm passing by near a location with fast DC charging. And what kind of charger do you do? So, dedicated smart charger, whatever, next. And how would you charge your EV while on holiday? Well, obviously we're going to use the WEV network. And whether, what maximum distance are you most comfortable in driving? So I just put the last one because any trip is possible. And how comfortable are you answering a few questions on the impact of charging? Now, this obviously would require you to put in your email address, which is again very optional. So, and then you've got a whole lot of agree disagrees, and then at the end you've got a thanks very much, and if you'd like to go in a draw for a prize voucher, please put in your email address, but you don't have to. So it can be an entirely anonymous survey, and that's something that the club's been approached to disseminate to our members for the greater good. But of course, participation is entirely optional. So I'll send out an email over the next day or so to all our members, and we'll probably post it up on our private Facebook account as well. So that's just a small survey. And hopefully it'll bring some further changes to government policy, perhaps some positive changes. such as, one thing that we really need to start agitating for, even before the conclusion or the completion of what I'd call stage 1 of the WA EV network, is really to get stage 2 and 3 up, because a mere $20 million investment in such important infrastructure should just be an opening shot. It should just be the entree to what will be a main course of many,
100%.
many more charges.
100%, Harold.
So that's something that we'll be agitating for, and I think collectively we all should be doing that, even individually and jointly, because it's important that all strata of government, local, state and federal, are well aware of our opinion of where we're at the moment compared to the rest of the first world. So anyway, rant over. Anyone got any questions or comments to open up this show with? Or
Well,
I'll
we've
look at
got
the
we've got the Tesla results coming out. Is it tomorrow morning?
What are you talking about, Willis? You talk about the financial Q1.
No, that's Q1 earnings call.
That's
That's not on. That's next week.
That's
Pete.
next week.
Yeah, it's just, I'm a week ahead of the curve, I think.
Yes, you are. You are a week ahead of the curve, but there's nothing wrong with being ahead of the curve, because by definition you are. Yeah, it was in a couple of 20th, so it's 5:30 a.m. on Thursday, the 20th of April.
Yeah.
So yes,
Next week.
so that is well ahead of the curve. There are a couple of things. Oh yeah, so obviously the Powerwall reducing in price was great. Frustratingly, I had to look at a news article to find the actual price, because Tesla don't actually put the price of Powerwall on their website, which is a little bit frustrating. Because now when you go to look at a Powerwall, it just directs you to a qualified installer, and I don't know why Tesla's doing it, but then you have to sort of approach that installer and negotiate with them. So
And they quote you the all-in price, including installation, and they don't usually break it up, so they'll just give you the one price. So
yeah, so it makes it a bit difficult. So I guess then the pro tip there is probably approach several installers to see who gives you a better price package, because
But
you know
it's-
that.
but it's not just about the price, like anything else.
True, yes, that's right. And that's the frustrating thing, isn't it, Pete? Because I guess you presume that the markup on the Powerwall is the same, but then if it's one single price, that kind of becomes a blurred figure, doesn't it? You don't really know what the true cost is of the parts, and whether it's more expensive because they want to have a higher markup on the Powerwall, or it's more expensive because they're doing a better job installing it or something. But
The prices range just in the last year or so, anywhere from, so this is mainly for quality installers, anywhere from about $13,000 to $20,000 installed. So a big variation, primarily because the price of the Powerwalls went up quite a lot last year. And now we've had, now the second price drop. We probably need one more to get back to where we were over a year ago.
and it does seem that is the trend. There is a downtrend with materials costs decreasing, and I guess scale of manufacturers increasing.
If you take out the COVID effect, battery prices in general have been declining anywhere sort of between about 13 and 17% per annum. So on average about 15%, which effectively means that, within they halve, within a 3-year period. But as a result of the supply chain bottlenecks, etc., Tesla has increased their prices, and Tesla leads the market and everyone else follows. So everyone else did the same. But now it's good to see that the prices are on their way back down. Like I said, probably another price drop before where they were, a year ago.
Yeah, very good. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride as far as prices do go. So yeah, let's hope Tesla just keeps on doing it. That was an 11.5% decrease, I think it was, Pete.
correct.
Yeah,
Spot on.
which is
Yep.
which is a great start.
Which,
It really,
is, which is just under $1,700. So that's decent money.
yeah, absolutely, and yeah, let's just hope it keeps coming with the BYD batteries and the LGs and all the other batteries to make battery storage that much more affordable, which is what we hope it is, because you really have to marry solar with battery storage to make it so much more useful. Otherwise, yeah, it's just not going to be as good as it could be. Now,
You need to.
so go, Pete.
I was just going to say you need to. Battery storage does help the grid, but other than that, there's no real environmental impetus for doing it. So then, you're apart from other ancillary motivations, for most people, the main motivation is economic. Does it save you money? And if it is economics, then you've got to accurately work out your payback period, your rate of return, etc. See if it's worthwhile. And at these prices, it's still marginal for many people. I'm very proud that in the last year, I've managed to talk every single one of my clients from getting a Powerwall, but installed plenty of Powerwalls before then, and probably will plenty of after. But during the last year, the economics just didn't make sense. So at those prices, so why would you not wait?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the point too is, it's better for the grid, but if you're going to earn a little bit of money selling it to the grid anyway, really if you're storing it and using it yourself, well, you're storing it at a cost, or you're using it yourself at a cost of between 3 and 8 cents per kilowatt hour. So you're going to get that money anyway, guaranteed. It's just that it might not be fantastic for the grid at midday to be producing that much power and not storing it for later. But you're right, Pete.
And some people are getting seduced by the 10-cent feed-in tariff between 3 and 9 p.m. But if you actually do the figures, it's not really an incentive. I mean, you probably have to be closer to about $1 or $1.50 a kilowatt hour for it to be a true incentive.
There's another little sun that shines at 8:30 p.m. just quietly, I think,
Yeah, exactly.
generally.
So, yeah. No, I'm talking about a Powerwall. So you store it, between, 8 or 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. And then you use what you need to use, and you, a bit of energy arbitrage, and you sell back whatever you can between 3 and 9. But yeah, the 10 cents, yeah, needs to be a lot more than that for it to be a real incentive.
I would rather get a bigger inverter to use more of the generation than have any feed in, but unfortunately, Western Power aren't letting me upgrade my inverter, so it's a frustration.
How big have you got? A 5 kilowatt?
Yeah,
And are you 3-phase or single phase?
3-phase.
And why have you actually applied to Western Power? And they've said no.
Yeah, I applied and they said no.
What was the reason?
I'm not sure. Not sure the reason. They don't give a reason. They just said no.
You usually do. There's 2 ways to apply. One is, they just sort of make it go through an automatic approval process. And with that automatic approval process, most 3-phase locations in Perth have been pretty much automatically approved up to about 8.2 kilowatts of inverter capacity.
I was going for 10.
What's that?
I was going for 10 kilowatts of inverter capacity.
Yeah, okay. So you could try again 8.2 and might just go through automatically. And if you've been denied, then there is another application process, a more extensive one that you can go through that you may have more luck with.
It was just through the company that was doing it on my behalf. It wasn't a personal one. It was the company that was,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try again.
Yeah, send me a text, Russell, and I'll see if there's anything up. Yeah, can do.
Could just be the person you get on the day, potentially, as well.
Say again?
Could just be the person that does the application.
Oh, yeah, it's It could be a lot of variables, yeah. And it could just mean that there just isn't enough transformer capacity. You might have an old transformer in your street. Most of the old transformers were really not designed to be taking power back to the grid. So they were sort of, only about 30% of their capacity.
But couldn't I just change my inverter so I don't feed back at all? Like, I'm not worried about feeding back. It's more about.
You could do a zero. You could put a zero export device or zero export limit your inverters. So that is an option, but generally that's from Western Power's point of view. If you're generating 5 kilowatts and then a cloud goes overhead, and you're all of a sudden putting 5 kilowatts, well, that in some ways is very similar to you sort of putting 5 kilowatts into the grid. It's not the same thing, I know.
Yeah, but I've got like 30 kilowatt hours of battery as well.
Oh yeah, did you say you've got 30 kilowatt hours? Oh, that's where your limit is. So are they DC coupled or AC coupled?
Yeah, DC coupled, yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah, okay. So that's probably where you're hitting your limit, not necessarily, yeah, okay.
No, because I'm not, because if that's there, that's even more of a backup for them, because once I draw...
Oh, absolutely, but it's just unfortunate that Western Power doesn't see it that way, so...
Yeah, okay. I'll let you know. Thanks.
Cool. No worries.
One thing that I sort of breezed over in the news, well, I didn't actually refer to it, that actually is a bit new too, as far as functionality for showing supercharger status. I'll just share basically a grab of the news screen. Is they've actually got a distribution, or it actually tells you a live graph of activity, and it pairs that or compares it to the historical activity. So obviously when I did this, which was at 2:25 yesterday afternoon, the Karrinyup supercharger was sort of about as busy as it normally gets, and obviously Eaton was nowhere near as busy as it usually gets, and nor was Margaret River. But you do get this histogram, sort of Google style, where it shows occupancy compared to historical averages. So that can sort of be handy if you're doing road trips to see when it's generally busy or not during that day. So that was another little piece of enhancement that Tesla introduced.
I wonder if they're just pulling that from their own data. You would think they are, but I thought I noticed, you know how Google does that for businesses? I thought I noticed Google doing that for the charger locations previously as well. So, Google must just base it off their searches.
Well, it'd be mainly off phones, I dare suggest, for all the Android phones with GPS tracking. It just shows occupancy in an area, in a box, in a bounding box. But I'd say that the supercharger ones are definitely Tesla's data.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not really. It's not dimensioned, so you don't actually know what it really means. I presume, like for instance, at Karrinyup, those top ones there is probably means it's kind of full, but I guess that's possibly just a relative measure. It's really hard to tell. But again, it's a good thing, and it's just interesting how they've got, 50 cents at Eaton, up to 64 cents per kilowatt hour at Margaret River and Williams.
Do those costs fluctuate with times, or are they flat?
They don't seem to. So every time I've looked, it's always been the same. But that is a question that we're going to pose to Tesla to see if there's any intention to actually make them volatile as well during the day. Because, for example, in Europe, or more precisely in Austria, when I was driving around, they actually had 3 different time zones or tariffs. There was a morning, a lunch, and an evening tariff. That was different prices, which I guess reflected the different costs of electricity. Or perhaps it was also doing some demand shifting so that it would take people away from the more peak times of either supercharger demand or electricity demand, I guess. At a
Those
macro
commercial
level.
locations where the superchargers are located would have access to the spot price. They wouldn't be paying the retail cost that we pay, right? that'd be on the spot market.
I don't know, Russell.
They'd be on a. Sorry, you're asking how much the superchargers pay for the electricity? Was that the question?
Well, I was just assuming that the locations where the superchargers are positioned, they'd be on a commercial power agreement where they'd access a spot price.
No, it wouldn't be spot. They wouldn't have access to spot pricing, but they would be on average on 2-year contracts, most likely unbundled contracts, so demand-based tariffs rather than consumption-based tariffs.
Okay.
And yeah, they would get charged for all the different components separately, and yeah, but they'd be on a they'd probably go on.
Yeah, maybe the costs of those ones are just an indication of the contract they've signed. It's probably maybe it's just a flat rate across the board. So the only difference in price would really be trying to curb demand at high peak periods rather than trying to recoup costs associated with different costing structures.
Well, I also noticed that the cheapest one is a version 2 supercharger, not the version 3. So is that relevant?
Yeah, because if you're on a demand-based tariff, the more you pull, the higher your demand costs are. So that would be consistent with a unbundled contract.
Okay.
Because I mean, Karanup gets smashed, so I'd say that's probably the highest utilised supercharger in WA.
Karanup's got a massive power supply going to it. They've got, I think it's 13 substations in the actual complex. And the only reason why I know that is I think one of the ones on the roof is actually called Substation 13.
Is that to run the ATM when you try to withdraw? Is it, Harold?
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's actually to run the cloud computing to actually do all those Bitcoin transactions. That's exactly right, Russell. Takes a lot of parallel computing to do that.
Actually, when I was last at the supercharger last week, 1 and 2 cars had drawn up and they had reduced power, like how they're not supposed to drop. So when they plugged in, like the first guy was like, oh no, if you plug in, then we'll both drop. And they both dropped I tried to explain to them that it won't happen, but it did. And they showed us it was like 30 kilowatts.
That it dropped by, or that it dropped to?
That it dropped by, yeah. And I was like, wow, okay, that's a bit weird. I didn't know about that.
Well, the dirty little secret is that Tesla announced with Supercharger V3 that you didn't have to share power, except that's kind of wrong, to be perfectly honest, because if you look at the placard on the side of the 2 power converters, their total power is only about 550 kilowatts, and yet they're running 3 nozzles.
Yep.
So obviously if you had 3 long range or performance Model 3s or Ys, that can actually pull 250 kilowatts for a very short time. It's only a few minutes. If you plug them in simultaneously, that's obviously 750 kilowatts, which is well beyond the capacity of the DC unit. So Tesla, I dare say, was gilding the lily a little bit in saying that you don't share. It sort of does, but it's less noticeable because it's got a lot of overhead. Well, even if you plugged in 3 cars simultaneously at the correct high temperature, battery temperature and chemistry that could take, and low state of charge, like 10 or 15%, they're only going to draw that 250 kilowatts for just a few minutes before they taper. And as long as they taper to like 180 kilowatts or 170, then it doesn't matter. But clearly it does make a difference, and you do notice it. So let's just call it puffery that they're not sharing, because they kind of are. But in Europe and in the States it's worse, because they have 4 stalls per DC unit, whereas we only have 3.
Yeah, that was Good Friday, now that I remember, because I took a book.
Very good. Sorry, Pete, you're going to say something?
Sorry, Pete, go.
Oh, no, I was just saying, the chances of you having to power share on a 3-stall V3 supercharger is pretty low. So there's they're sort of correct and right for 98% of the situations.
That's right. And for example, if you've got an LFP battery, so like a standard range Model Y or a standard range Model 3, well, you don't get anywhere near the 250 kilowatts in any
No.
case.
I
So
think it's 170 or something.
yeah, I'm
It's
just
a bit higher, about 180 odd something, but only for a few, seconds.
Yeah.
Quick trivia question: does anyone remember when the LFP Model 3s started being delivered in Australia
In Australia.
on the SR Plus?
no. Anyone? Anyone's got an old SR Plus, like an old standard range that's got 100%.
I know, Alex. What was?
2021's mine, March.
Yeah.
And is yours LFP, Alex, or
LFP, yeah.
And when did you say yours was made?
In March 2021.
Was that the build date? Was it?
That was the delivery date. I should check what the build date is.
Okay. So it probably would have been January or December.
I would say, yeah, around there sometime.
Yeah.
It should be on. No, it's not on the app. I thought it might be.
No, it'll be on your order, on your documentation. It's actually on the website. It's under glove box documents or something along those lines. And yeah, you should have your order agreement in there. It will be in there. But yeah,
Right.
that's okay. Anyone else that had a SR Plus prior to that date? Crowd goes wild. Okay. Take that as a no.
That's it. Incidentally, for anyone that's curious to see what a performance card does when it's doing 251 kilowatts, is it actually looks like this. So that's the full 251 kilowatts, and it's only jamming in 675 amps into your charge port. Not much at all. Not much at all.
Jeez.
And that's at 16.6% state of charge. And you notice that the battery is nice and warm. So it's basically
secret.
45 degrees. So that's what it wants to be at a low state of charge to really jam in the juice. But you'll only do that for a few minutes.
Yeah.
The answer
Before it-
to your question, it was built on 12th of January. Hang on, January 21 it was.
Cool.
Cool.
Now,
Thanks,
listen, you try to talk because you're on mute. I've seen your mouth moving a lot. I'm not sure if you're talking to somebody else or.
No, I was
Can I
talking to
contribute?
someone else. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She's telling off Patrick.
Yeah.
I'm not telling him off, but I'm talking to Patrick. Patrick couldn't think who you reminded him of, Harold, today.
Yes, I did.
But then he said, actually, I know exactly who Harold reminds me of. Do you want to see?
I might just have to put you on spotlight so I get a bigger image. What are you going to show me?
See if I can get this up. Are you ready?
Dearie me.
You've probably been told this before. I don't think it's going to be news.
I don't think anyone's associated me with anything. They've called me lots of names though.
Brave
really?
man, Harold, brave man.
Oh, except for Mr. Picard, but go on. Oh no, you. I'm totally Yes, it was Mr. Picard. Yes.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly you, right?
I don't know what you're talking about at all. We just got no resemblance
That
whatsoever.
is uncanny, Alison. That is.
It is uncanny, right?
Now we
Yeah.
can't unsee that. So.
And
So
he
even if-
travels at warp speed as well, like you in
Yeah.
your new performance.
So do you mean I have to rename my car the Enterprise? Oh,
You're going to have
dear.
to do something.
I am. Oh no, I can't unsee that. Ah, dearie me.
It's like the koala on the yoke. Once you see it, you can't see it.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. I think I'm going to have to when I go to bed tonight, I'm just going to have to do a little bit of this.
Oh, what a shame, poor baby.
Never mind. And then, of course, you're going to have to then be playing one of these. Oops.
Oh, not the violin again. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Every week,
Violin.
Harold, every week.
And then, of
Oh, no.
course,
I know
In the-
Harold does change it up. We
It's
used to
the
have.
same joke. It's the same every week.
I know,
But
I know it does.
There's a lot of sooks on there. Channel.
but in the morning, I'll just wake up, and
Oh,
wonder
God.
what's going on.
Way too much hair going on there.
Well, me and my mate Rick Arden have got something on, so we're not adverse to having a bit of
I
extra
knew you
hair.
were the Rick Arden man.
All right, I got a genuine question, if that can help.
Oh yes, Russell, please do.
And I'm sure there might be some others, but anyway, so recently, I don't know how long this has been happening for, but I noticed on the app, sometimes when I look at the charge bar when it's plugged in, there's like the green to say how far it's been charged. Then there's like a little blue section at the end.
Yes.
Do you want to elaborate
Is
on
that
what's
in the
all about?
morning?
Yes.
or-
So that's the temperature. So that's actually, and it's weird because it's super accurate. So even if the car's mildly cool, like not 15 degrees, but mildly, that tiny sliver of blue is indicating that that's the bit of charge that's not available because the battery is not quite warm. So
Okay.
the implication is that when your battery warms up a bit, you'll get that blue bit back. It's there, it's just not accessible. And I guess in winter we'll see more and more of that, which will be quite interesting. Because once
Yeah,
your
well, I
battery
find-
pack,
Yeah, okay. Because what I usually do in winter, not so much in summer because it doesn't really matter too much, but in winter, I have the car plugged in at night, and when I go to work in the morning, I'll say leave at 5 a.m. or whatever, and then it turns the air conditioner stuff on, keeps the car up. It must heat the battery as well, I guess. And I find that I get a bit of extra range out of it because it must not use as much battery to get everything up and toasty when I start driving. Because I usually find that in winter, the first 2 or 3% go down really quickly, and then it's sort of okay. But if you preheat it before you go, that first 2 or 3% lasts far longer.
Yep.
Is that accurate, or am I just thinking that in my head?
no,
No,
that's exactly
that's
right.
right.
Yeah.
Now, out of interest, I've just taken a screen. Ah, bugger.
Son of a.
You.
No.
Oh, yeah.
I know what I can do. I'll just turn off my green screen, and I've got like a small slither, and I haven't driven my car for a few hours. 2 seconds. There we go. Okay, let's just go turn that off. All right. Sorry about this. Back onto there. Okay, so I'll just spotlight that.
Yeah.
So I've just got a little bit of, and I've zoomed right in. So if you, for example,
You
look-
can see this.
you can't normally
see,
it,
see
but
how
yeah.
on that scale that's a full scale, so that's not very prominent. But if I zoom right in, it's got this tiny slither of blue. So that's
And it only shows if the car's actually plugged in. If it's sitting there not plugged in, the charging bit isn't available, so it doesn't show.
Yep.
So even if-
is that car? No, that car's not plugged in, so it is actually showing it.
Oh, really? Because mine only comes up when my car's plugged in. So right now it's unplugged, it doesn't show.
No, mine is not plugged in, so it's actually showing it. Sorry, I'm just rearranging screens. Sorry about that. Yeah, so mine is not plugged in, Russell.
But how does
So
that
it
make
shows
you appear on yours? It must be just, maybe you're on Apple, it's got a different
He's
screen.
on Apple,
Yeah,
we're on
Apple.
Android. Mine
Yeah,
doesn't
okay.
show until it's plugged in as well.
No, you can
Yeah.
click on your battery in the corner,
Yeah,
and
my one's
it'll
showing
bring
it.
it up.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
But in that
But
situation,
yeah, I never knew that.
the bubble,
That must be.
the bubble that shows where it is so big that it covers up any blue there anyway, because it's right at the end.
Yeah, right.
So I'll show you that. See how I've got the bubble there, so it doesn't really help.
Oh, yeah, gotcha. So yes, exactly right.
So when
So I'm
you
just gonna.
plug it in, it doesn't show up that bubble.
Defender.
Yeah, I never knew
So-
that. That must be
Okay,
new.
so you're not going to see this, but just take my word for it. That's my wife's one. You can't see it, but there is no blue
Yeah.
bit. So her car, she drove it obviously home from work a couple of hours ago. So her battery is warmer than mine, and she has zero slither of blue at all. Like no
Yeah.
slither.
I
Oh,
don't have
Russell-
any either. Mine's
Yeah,
been in the garage since 1 o'clock.
There's
I don't
also
have any
that.
sliver.
There's also that
Yeah,
three
right.
buttons there. If you press that, you get this feedback thing,
It's a bit weird. Here we go.
and you can share feedback. But it says, "How's your charging session?" But it always says
Oh.
supercharger, even if you're not a supercharger.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It just does that every single time, even though you're not
Yeah.
a supercharger.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had
gotcha.
that because I plugged in at the Esplanade, just off the Tesla wall one outside there, and I got
Yep.
that, and it was asking, and I tried to do it, and then it failed. So
Yeah.
I was like, "Ba-bong." But that's really cool, Russell. I never didn't see that blue stuff before. That must be new.
I guess it's probably far more prominent in cooler environments. Maybe if we
Yeah.
had Chuck on here or something, he'd probably be half blue on his.
Yeah, that's
Probably the other way
that's-
around. It's mostly blue and it's a
Yeah.
little sliver
yes,
of green.
and a slither of green. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But at least it's good because it actually explains to you in detail or graphically what's going on. And it's not that you haven't got that storage, it's just that it's not able to be unlocked
Yeah, I
until
mean-
your battery's warm enough.
It'd be far more useful if they actually said what it was for, not just showing it on there with no idea.
That's
And
why
that's
there's
probably useful.
well, that's why we have Ask Us Anything, Russell, so people like yourself can ask and then we can answer and then we disseminate knowledge. But you're right, it should be a bit more obvious than that. You should be able to click on it or at least have an explanation.
Hmm.
Can I do an ask anything question?
Yes, Christopher, go.
So I'm going to Exmouth for the eclipse, and
Oh, wow.
I'm a little concerned about the number of electric cars that might head up there. So like Carnarvon to Exmouth is a sort of a reasonably long leg, like 370 kilometres. And the RAC charger is the only listed like plug share charger there. The issue that I think is that that's only one phase 3, as I understand it. And if 13 electric vehicles turn up at Exmouth for the week of the eclipse, that's going to be quite tricky to kind of get anything charged. The other
Hey, Chris, so Christopher, you've obviously got accommodation in Exmouth, like in a house or
well,
something?
the accommodation is in the national park. So we're like 10.
So you're camping on an unpowered site.
Yes.
Okay, so
Oh,
there's a
you're
couple. There's a couple of big issues. Are you coming back that day? That whatever the day is. I think
Oh,
it's a
no, I've
Monday?
got a week, right?
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you got some time after the eclipse.
Yeah, I think it's actually, I'm not concerned so much on going up because I actually booked a night at the RAC caravan park just to even charge the car. Right.
Yep.
So like if the 3-phase thing is completely, crowded, then maybe spend a night there. But I've only got the one night there, so I could trickle charge it. Then on the way back, I think that's the trickiest thing because the eclipse is on Thursday. I need to go back on the Saturday.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of people are going to head back Friday or Saturday. So that's what I anticipate the problem is.
And
I'm
you've got a
trying to
Model.
remember, the last time I was there, I remember there
What
were,
car?
sorry,
You got a
What
Model
car
3.
do you have, Crystal?
I've got a Performance Minus.
Oh, yeah.
A Model 3. Okay,
Sweet.
cool. So you got
Yeah.
long range.
Yeah.
Because, for example, between Northampton and Carnarvon, that's 415 kilometres, I think, or is it 425, one or the other. And you can charge up at the fast DC charger at Northampton, the WAEV network
Oh yeah,
charger.
I'm cool all
So-
the way to. Yeah, no, I'm cool.
Yeah.
It's a Carnarvon Exmouth leg that I'm most worried about. I'm staying at the Billabong kind of hotel on the way up, and it's got a charger, a Tesla charger there as well. And there's
Yes, Billabong
Geraldton
Homestead.
and Northampton, all good. So there's lots of options getting to the Billabong, and then I'm going to stay a night at Carnarvon. So there's a Tesla destination charger there. It's the Carnarvon to Exmouth leg that's about 370 Ks.
Yep.
So it's sort of like I'm going to limp into town, although the cyclone's going to help because it's like 40 kilometres an hour southeasterly, so that'll be good. But I will probably just get in there because there's 4 of us and a bit of gear. And I'm
So
just...
the trick, so the trick firstly
Just
is
drive
for
slow.
every 10% that you reduce your speed, you'll gain an extra compounding 14% of range.
Right.
So there's a big difference between doing 110 and doing 100, and an even bigger and a similar difference between 100 and, well, 91 or 90. So this, and if you do 80, it's another huge difference. Or if you find a caravan to draft behind at a safe distance, again, when you're trying to stretch distances, caravans are your friend, and
Right.
anything big, basically.
They're big bricks.
They're big bricks, and they basically pave the way ahead for you effectively. So if you slow down, so for example, a Model X that I used to have had a 100% range of about 380 kilometres. I drove at 471 kilometres non-stop with no breaks in between and nowhere to charge in between. And I did that by basically slowing down. So,
Right.
so speed is your friend. Don't worry about the aircon too much. So by all means, drive slower, but don't drive slow and sweaty because that's just not pleasant. And there's not a huge difference your aircon makes compared to slowing down. So that long leg, what I would do, are you arriving a couple of days before the eclipse?
Yeah, arriving 5 days before.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So the priority is charge your car as soon as you possibly can, because I'm aware that at Exmouth they have massive power problems. Well, they're anticipating massive power problems to the extent that there may be local blackouts, because I think there's a single main transformer that feeds the bulk of Exmouth, and if that overloads, it will explode and fail, and that will be catastrophic for everyone. So Horizon Power are highly motivated to shed loads if they become uncontrollable or uncontrolled. So they will be sending out text messages and all sorts of things to lots of different householders to tell them to stop using so much power, or they will simply black various houses out in rolling blackouts. So that would obviously peak on the day before and the day of the eclipse. And in fact, if you've got solar generation, you've got solar panels on the houses, they will all be useless during the totality of the eclipse or leading up to it and through it. So that's the danger period, is probably the day before and the day after the eclipse, or mainly probably the day before and the day of. So your priority ought to be to charge up your car as quickly as possible while you can. So that's the first priority, is just charge it up. If you're staying at a resort or in a house, or, oh no, you're staying in a national park, but just go to that 3-phase outlet on the day you arrive and just charge for a few hours while you can. So that way you can stay full during the time when you've got to abate usage.
Chris, just a quick question. Are you able to open up your app at the moment and just have a look, go to your car, and just under your car's name in the top left-hand corner, just to the right of the battery, it will either have the percentage or the kilometres.
So I've opened the app. Sorry, what's
Yep.
the question?
So just under the name of your car,
Yes.
next, just to the right of the battery, yep, it will either have a kilometre figure or a percentage figure.
Under the name of the car, it just says the battery is currently at 94%.
94%. Okay. If you click on that 94%, it should change to kilometres. And can you tell me how many kilometres it says?
420.
Okay.
There's a total of
So-
447 Ks.
437, yeah.
447. By the way, very importantly, Christopher, why are you at 94%?
Because I'm waiting for 9 o'clock to kick in to charge it to 100% for the trip that I'm going tomorrow morning.
Oh,
what you want
okay.
is-
You should
find
do that a bit
the
later,
code, right?
Christopher. Do that later. So set scheduled departure.
Yeah, and do it
To-
100%.
Say
Yeah.
an hour before you're going to leave, and then set it to 100% because you don't really want your battery beyond much where it is at the moment for like many hours on end.
Sure.
So, actually, what you can do, look, I mean, no doubt, you'll get up and have breakfast or whatever, or have a shower, shave, whatever, which will take half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. What you could do is just put your slider back to 90%. As soon as you wake up, just then set your slider to 100%, because you'll only gain. And in fact, actually, to be perfectly honest, Christopher, don't just leave it as it
I
is.
probably don't
Because
even need, I've got to say,
No.
I don't need 100% tomorrow. I'm going to go.
no, because
Yeah.
when you get to Geraldton, you
Yeah.
can charge up on the WA EV network,
Yeah.
and that's a 150 kilowatt charger. It'll charge very quickly. What you could do, if you like, as a matter of practicing getting longer range. So, sorry, what did you say was the distance between Carnarvon and Exmouth?
Carnarvon and Exmouth is 370.
Okay, right. Here, try this as an experiment. As you drive towards Geraldton, just navigate to Geraldton, right? So
Yeah.
from wherever you are in Perth, and let's say your state of charge is 94% because you stopped charging now, right?
Yeah.
Or you wake up in the morning, you put the slider up to 100% and let it charge an extra couple of percent or 3 or 4% to 98% by the time you leave, and that's perfectly okay to do. What you should do as an exercise is navigate to Geraldton, which is 400 your car will tell you, depending on where you live, about 410 k's ish, 420, something like that. Of course, you probably should stop at Jurien Bay, depending on the wind conditions, but it'll be a great indicator of what your efficiency is driving on the chip seal road at highway speeds, because that's worse than going from Carnarvon to Exmouth. And if it shows that if your car says, "Oh, look, I'll be at -5% when I get to Geraldton," then that's perfectly okay. It means you'll easily make it to Exmouth doing 100 k's an hour, because most of the speed limit between Perth and Geraldton is 100 k's an hour. There's a few sections of 110. So that you can sort of get your runs on the board as far as getting a feel of how your car's going with all the
under
passengers.
the equivalent load.
Yes, precisely. Yeah, it'll be the same load, and the road conditions will be very similar, and probably the wind conditions will be very similar too. But obviously, just go and charge your car up at Jurien Bay, unless you find yourself behind a caravan and you're happy just to do 95 k's an hour or whatever it is. And if your car projects that it's going to easily make it to Geraldton, then just do that. Just go to Geraldton and get the runs on the board. Otherwise, you've got to pay $50 at Jurien Bay. But then again, you could just have brunch or whatever at Jurien Bay and spend 3/4 of an hour and fill your car up. It means you'll spend a bit less time at Geraldton, or at least you make full utilisation of the $50 that you've spent at Jurien Bay.
Because I just checked, like, to drive to Geraldton from my place in Hammersley, and it said I'd make it with probably the 94% sort of stuff, so maybe 96. So I don't know if that helps you or not.
I think, Paul, that's being optimistic, because the car isn't taking into account the chip seal road.
Oh yeah.
So it's all that extra road noise. The other thing too is, Christopher, make sure that your tyres are pumped up to what you're comfortable with, or should I say, make sure they're not under pressure,
Right.
underinflated, because any form of underinflation will quite significantly reduce efficiency.
Is that 44?
I think it's recommended it's 44.
50 is the legal limit on if.
So 50 psi is the maximum cold inflate, and I think Tesla's recommended is 44. Bearing in mind that's 44 cold. So if you've got a battery compressor at home, you should do it when it's cold. If you drive to a service station and fill your tyres up, depending on how far that trip is, even if it's only a couple of kilometres, you can safely add, say, 2 or 3 psi higher than what it says,
Sure.
because when it's cold, it'll actually come back. So, so you should leave with no less, absolutely no less than 44 psi dead cold.
What was, because our ones were saying like 38 cold, 39 cold
What's that for?
for the
Well,
minus.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
That seems
It's
low.
it's on your screen and that stuff. But yeah, I don't have it that low because it's too low, I think. But,
Hey, Chris, do you remember
but
when
yeah, 44 it'll handle it.
when you had your car delivered?
2018, I don't know what year. I don't know what month, sorry.
Okay. So it was in 2019, was it?
I think it was 2018, but maybe it was 19.
Yeah,
No,
it
would
couldn't be 18.
2019. The
Couldn't have
first
been
Perth
19.
Performance
was in
3
September.
was 19.
All I know is I waited 2 years for it. I remember that.
Yeah, I waited 3.5. That's all right.
3.5. Then.
Um,
All
but
right.
what colour's your car?
White.
Oh, okay, cool. So you had to pay extra for the white, did you, or
Yeah.
was
I
the
can't
white
remember
free?
that. And my wife's is a Model S that we've had 8 years. So
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, with the minus, you had to pay extra because that's what I've got
right.
for the white. It's 2.5
I've got a
grand.
minus, and I've got a black minus, which was the free colour at the time.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I
So,
can't
Christopher,
remember.
if you go to your controls, so you go to your
Yep.
you go to your app, and then you just click controls,
Yep.
and then in the upper right hand corner,
PSI.
you got PSI. So, for instance, you can see mine
Yep.
were 53 PSI 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
So it'll tell you what it was.
Yeah. Mine's all set at 45. 9 hours ago. Okay. So that's okay. Leave it
Yeah,
there.
just
Yeah.
yeah,
Whatever
just
you're
in fact,
comfortable
it actually says here recommended cold pressure 42. So it actually
No.
says that at the top of the screen, underneath
It's
the word
interesting.
controls.
Oh, yeah, it does. Same. Yeah, it says same.
Well, it's interesting. Mine says recommended front 41 and rear 40.
Yeah, mine is 38 and 39.
And you both got performance minuses as well.
Yeah.
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 Who knows?
That's weird.
But yeah, I don't have it that low anyway.
But yeah, just make sure your tires aren't underinflated because, like I said, underinflation
Is it-
definitely
yeah,
adds
killer.
to significantly
Sure.
adds to lack of efficiency.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Dennis.
This is Dennis. Yeah, sorry I haven't been able to get the camera to go. But
That's cool.
anyway, we're going away for a few weeks overseas and want to know if there's anything special we need to do to preserve the battery, the car, whatever.
So what sort of car have you got, Dennis?
Got Model 3, just the standard one.
Standard range, so fairly new within the last couple of years.
Yeah, November we got it last year.
Okay, so the recommendation is you plug your charger in, leave the
Okay.
slider at 100%, and walk away from the car. That's it. Just leave it plugged in and charging to 100%.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Okay. Another question. Thanks for that. Another question. Our boot lid, our boot won't open fully all the way. Is there but if you push it, it goes up another 200 mil or so. Can you retrain it to go all the way open?
Yeah.
Yes.
You can just,
So I think
Sorry.
do you press and hold the
Yep.
when it's up? Do you press and hold the boot button and then it has a
Yep,
tone
and
and,
it'll
then
beep.
you adjust it? Yep.
yeah, you just push it up.
About a
Yeah.
7 seconds delay or something. You just hold it, beep.
Okay, that's great. Excellent.
And it will learn
Okay.
it'll learn that position for where it is. So it'll learn to go higher or fully up at your location at home.
Oh,
More important
excellent.
for Model Ys, don't open it fully in your garage, or else you're going to hit
Because?
the ceiling. So you have to train it to not open all the way up if you don't have the space.
You must have a
Yeah.
low
Right.
ceiling
That's
there.
full
You
in,
must have a
I've
low
got high
ceiling. It's finer than mine.
It's glass.
Yeah, we've got to make sure the car's not too close to the garage door because it swings back and is likely to damage the paint. Talking about paint, we've been playing with the idea. I mentioned earlier ours is red. We've been playing with the idea of getting some PPF, some paint protection film put on, and we love the colour red. But we've also seen some other pretty snazzy films that you can put on. I know they're about $6,000 and we've already spent $3,000 on the paint. So like that's $9,000 to get paint, and which is a lot of money, which is something to think about. But has anybody got a red one that they've put a PPF on that's pretty snazzy with some other finish to it besides clear?
Dennis, I've got a blue one and I've got a PPF which has got a sparkle on it. Do not put that on a red because it'll look pink.
Yes, I've heard that. I've been told that, and I want to definitely avoid that. Yeah.
I think just your normal PPF is fine, clear,
Yeah.
if you want to protect the paintwork.
Okay. Okay. Right. One more question. On the app, we can schedule when we can charge the car, when we want to start charging the car. But can you schedule it to stop charging at a particular time?
Well, you just broke up there. Just if you talk a little bit closer to your laptop, whatever you're using, I think your noise cancelling just cut out a bit.
Okay, sorry, I'll repeat. We can schedule when we start charging the car on the app, but I would like to know if we can schedule when you can stop it, because we charge ours from solar panels, and 4:30 these days you don't want to be charging on that because it comes off the main grid. So we want to be able to schedule it so it turns off at 4:30, and otherwise we likely forget. We stop charging the car and it's 8 o'clock and we've been paying for it. Is there any way to schedule a stop?
No. So there's only two things.
Yes, there is. Yes.
In the car.
Oh,
Yes.
well, there's
No,
two.
no, you can. No, you,
We'll go on, Russell. Okay, go on. You
okay, so
explain
what you need to do, this is very basic. So when you plug the car into charge, you'll have a charge limit of whatever percentage it is, right? You leave it there for a few seconds, it'll say 4 hours 25 until charging complete. You're like, well, I don't want to wait 4 hours 25. I want to finish charging in 2 hours. So you slide it back till it gets to 2 hours, which will work out to 4 o'clock, and then it will stop charging at 4 o'clock. It's not a time, but it's a duration you can set.
Okay, you do that on the app.
Yes.
But I think what Dennis wants is he wants to notionally set, which we can't do. We know we can't do, is set a start charging time span and then have a stop charging if you haven't finished charging by another certain time span, so that the car can only charge between a certain range of hours or times of the day. You can't do that. But what you can do, Dennis, is if what's more important to you is when the car stops charging, what you can do is do scheduled departure. So what you do is you tell the car, and I think you can also tell it when the off-grid power is as well, and you can do scheduled departure. So let's call that 7 a.m. So then what will happen is the car will predict how long it's going to take to charge, depending on what you've plugged into it. So if you've plugged in a high power wall connector, which can do 11 kilowatts if you're on a 3-phase house, or 7.6 kilowatts on a single phase house, it will initially draw a little bit of power just to see what it's connected to. Then if you tell it, I want to be finished charging by 7 a.m, it will then charge 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours before 7 a.m, so that it's finished charging to whatever your desired charge level is by 7 a.m.
Okay.
Or the other method is you just tell it to start charging on the off-peak time, which is, depending on what tariff you have, it could be 11 p.m. or whatever. And you just say, start charging when it's cheap, and it'll take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hours to charge, which will be 12 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning. So, but you cannot yet have do not only charge within this window.
Yeah, okay.
But also, Harold, you did talk about last week or the week before about the only charging while the sun's out as a future upgrade or future app enhancement.
Yes. And in fact, if you've got a Powerwall, Tesla are doing that in the States at the moment.
Yep.
and I dare say they will introduce that for other inverters and things as well. In fact, I think in the medium term, it'll be an option for Synergy to, if you want to enroll in this, to control your charging of your car for a benefit to you at either a discounted tariff rate or cashback or something, because Tesla can do it with their main system. That the whole fleet could behave nicely, if you want to put it like that.
That's only going to be for customers with Powerwalls, though, right?
No, no, it doesn't have to be, because once the Tesla mothership is aware of where the car is and what's going on in that situation, I predict that you'll be able to enroll into like this program, let's call it Tesla's advanced charging program, and that if you live in Perth and Synergy says, or AEMO says, we're really short on power for whatever reason, then if you participate in this system, then I think that's in Texas. Sorry, in Texas they've got a thing where if you participate,
$30 a month.
$30 a month, unlimited charging.
Yeah.
And it's all overnight because they've got lots of wind power at night time and all that sort of stuff. So I predict that Tesla will offer that to different regions and different energy providers and or AEMO, which is the main network, wholesale network clearance house.
Australian
they will tell.
operator.
Yes, and they will tell Tesla when to either go for your life and charge as hard as you can, or charge at half rate, or please stop for a certain time. And that will come, but it might take a few years.
Do you reckon they'll couple that to say with the please stops, also couple it with $1 a kilowatt hour feed-in tariff? Because if you're gonna say we need the power, then pay for it, right? We could produce
Yes.
power far cheaper than a power station could, like essentially free for them. So they could then encourage
It'd
us
be
to
nice.
feed in.
Well, because the same thing as generating more power is to stop consuming it. So if they allow your car to be dispatched as being, taken off the grid temporarily from consuming, you might be able to get a benefit out of that. So if you participate,
That's saying that you're actually charging at the time. You're not charging at all when your car's not even there.
then it's not a participant. No, it doesn't participate. So you won't get that benefit. But Tesla, they have actually stated that they are an energy supplier. They're one of their main business arms is going to be energy generation and effectively generation
And retail.
and retail. So, I mean, it won't happen in WA for a while because Synergy is the monopoly domestic retailer, consumer retailer, but it will come when Tesla can be involved. And also, look, we already have government control, centralized control of all the new inverters. For an inverter to be installed today, it must be compliant and it must be connected to the internet and proven to be so, and be able to be centrally controlled by, I guess, AEMO.
Of the 14th of February last year, every system installed after that day.
So I think eventually a similar thing will happen to EVSEs, because if you think about it, an EVSE is actually a larger consumer of electricity or a larger disruptor. Because solar panels, yes, clouds come over and whatever, but if everyone plugged in their EVs at 5:30 p.m. on a winter's evening and drew 11 kilowatts out of each house, multiply that times, at the moment WA has 4,302, I think it is, Teslas as of the end of last year. Imagine if they all plugged in and drew 11 kilowatts at 5:30
But
simultaneously.
Harold, it's no different from everyone turning their air conditioners on at the same time. There's many air conditioners that use, 13 kilowatts, 14 kilowatts, even more than a car charging. So, yeah, but it's all these draconian measures are basically our admission that we haven't invested in the grid as we should. We haven't invested in firming up renewables. So basically, we haven't invested in storage.
Exactly.
That
Exactly.
survey you shared earlier, it's kind of asking if you're willing to be in this kind of program.
Precisely. Precisely. Which is why it's important that everyone that is interested participates in the survey. I for one said I'm interested because usually it's not always sticks. There's usually often a carrot because it's easier to offer a carrot than it is to introduce a stick. But I mean, one good thing about EVs is they are eminently sheddable. So no one really cares whether your EV charges, if you plug it in at 5:30, whether it charged at 6:30, 9:30 at night, 3 in the morning, or 7 a.m. As long as by the time you leave, it's full to whatever you want. But you don't really care what happened in the meantime. It kind of doesn't matter, basically. But yeah, you're right, Daniel. That is a lot of that. That are the questions. That is one aspect of that survey. I think the survey is really trying to find out what are the impediments to EV adoption, because the perception is range anxiety and lack of charging infrastructure, which are both true up until the end of this year, and then a lot of that will wash away. But then there is also, how do you charge at home? How often do you charge? And do you have solar?
I did that survey while we were going through the conversation, but the thing that I found about it, I'm speaking to some of my friends with different EVs, not Teslas, is that there's issues that apply to them more than they apply to us. And there's also factors in, so one of the questions on there said rate in order of importance of why you picked an EV, but I didn't pick an EV, I picked a Tesla. And the reason why I picked it is because it's the safest vehicle that's ever been made. I didn't pick an EV because it's the safest vehicle ever made, because you can go buy some cheap Chinese thing that's probably worse than a 1990s Camry or something. But I picked it because it's the safest thing, and that's what I prioritize. And that didn't really have that option within the survey because it was lumping all EVs together into a single mindset of a decision. It's like saying, why'd you buy a car? Like if someone buys a ute or they buy like a sedan or whatever, it's all that would separate those two, but they haven't separated I don't know. That's, I guess, my feedback.
Wasn't the question? Wasn't there a please specify section in there?
I wrote safety in that, but
yeah, right.
It was still saying why did you choose an EV?
True.
I didn't choose an EV because it was safe. I chose a Tesla because it was safe. Whether it was an EV or not, it would make no difference. It's because it's the safest vehicle ever made. That's why that was the main reason behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's fair enough too. I mean, I chose mine for technological reasons, and I think it was the power and energy independence. But that's just because I'm lazy and I can't be bothered taking a petrol car to a petrol station.
You could have picked up another EV that didn't have tech in it, and have they said that all EVs are high tech as a blanket rule?
Yeah,
that's
true.
why they're
Yes.
And they're not. You can get a regular, I don't know, I won't diss them too much in here because there's been other affiliations, but other vehicles that aren't so technologically advanced that, anyway.
I actually think that the purpose of that question is trying to thresh out how many people are dyed-in-the-wool greenies that just want to do it for the environment, as opposed to another section of the community for which the environment is less important, but there are other features of EVs that are important. If you know what I mean. So I think because it's easy to it was easy in the past, because when you had things like the awesomely handsome Nissan Leaf and other super practical cars like the i-MiEV, that there were no compromises whatsoever in looks or size or performance, and you had to be a dyed-in-the-wool greenie to basically put up with that form factor and the butt ugliness of it, to have an EV to try and save the planet. Whereas now you don't have to drive an ugly car that's got crappy performance and no features and you will save the planet, but that doesn't have to be your prime directive. And I think that's what they're trying to find out is how mainstream, if you want to call it, that EVs are. Where no one, people just go, I just want the best car. Like you said, Russell, you want the safest car. The environment meant less to you than safety.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that more people that admit or that say that, the environment's important, but I really did it because of the performance or the features or the technology or whatever is a good thing, because it shows that they're becoming more mainstream. It's just like another car, and it's the best of all kinds of car.
Yeah,
which
because
we already know.
On that question as well, there was no option to pick total cost of ownership either. So I only had one option to pick. Like I could only say safety. I couldn't say safety and total cost of ownership. Like that wasn't an option.
I think it gave you an option to click other and then specify.
Yeah, I already had to click other for safety though. Yeah.
That's right. So if you had two, if you could tick two others, you could have safety and then another one for total cost of ownership.
Yeah.
But anyway, look, it's interesting to see that it's good that the government is interested, and the point is we've all got an opportunity to put forward our opinions, all of which are individual and each one's valid. So, yeah, the more the merrier.
Topic.
Cool.
Yes, go Russell.
You know how you said there will be a period of time where the WA EV network won't have idle fees, and then they'll introduce them at some point because the limitations of the provider at the moment means that they can't roll out straight away.
Yes.
When they do, so is there a way to disconnect a car from a charger if the car is abandoned and they just don't return to it, or do you need to unlock it from the car?
Yes. So the problem is that when you look at, I don't have a, oh yes, I do. Just hang on 2 seconds. 2 seconds.
Where did Jean-Luc go?
He beamed out.
I just got to plug my ears back in. Okay, so when you actually plug a CCS plug in, well, it can be CCS or just type 2. So I'll just spotlight myself. Okay, so this is a type 2. It's just a UMC. And then if you've got CCS, there's 2 extra pins at the bottom. Whoops, just twisted just under the bottom there. Now, if you look at the sides, sorry, there, you see there's a little hole, and there's actually one in the bottom. So they've actually got like little notches cut in the actual plug. And the purpose of that is that the car actually has a solenoid pin that goes in and effectively engages into, it's a little bit of plastic that engages into this plug, so it can't be
Is that your hair
removed.
clip, is it, Harold?
Sorry, say again?
Is that your hair clip, was it?
No, not quite. Here, I've got my little no file. Here we go. That I used to file my finger off, see, because it gets too long sometimes. And it basically engages, and then it captures the plug, and it won't let the plug go. So the issue is that most cars, when they finish charging, you can't unplug them. I think there are some exceptions. I think the CHAdeMOs you can, but CHAdeMO is not what they're using on the WAEV network. So the biggest issue is, if it's a Tesla, the only way that you can unplug it without the car agreeing to it is if you got access to the boot and you pulled the remote emergency release charge door. The actual latch release, and it's like a little pull thing that can actually uncouple the cable or the plug from the car. So let's just say you've got a poorly behaved Tesla owner, like the Kona owner over east that went on a 4-hour balloon trip at an NRMA fast DC charger. If they don't come back, you really can't remove the plug from the car without damaging probably most likely the car, because it is a plastic pin. if you pulled on it hard enough, it would probably break. I don't think it would really sort of slide backwards sort of thing. It would just probably break. And yeah, so short answer is no, Russell, you can't. You cannot disconnect them if they behave badly, which is the purpose of having an idle fee, which will probably be invoked within about 10 minutes of you stopping charging. Because if it was much longer than 10 minutes, that then becomes almost equal to the amount of charging time. Because, you know, I got 200 Ks in 16 minutes on my standard Model Y. So if your idle time was another 20 minutes or 15 minutes, then that means you're halving the utilization of the charger, which is not really appropriate. But you have to also be aware that someone might be in a lunch bar around the corner, and what can happen is your car could stop charging because the charger had an error, or somehow you bumped the app, or you didn't realize that you didn't set the slider to 90% or 100% for whatever reason. So you need to be given a reasonable amount of time to get back to your car. So there is a grace period, but after that, it'll probably be in the order of, like Tesla, $1 a minute thereafter.
Does that money go to the company that is providing the service, or does it go to the EV network, or like where?
It would go to Synergy/Horizon, whichever, in the Swiss section where Synergy do it. And bearing in mind, you'll know who owns the charger because it'll say powered by either Synergy or powered by Horizon. So all the Synergy chargers are south of Northampton. So Northampton is the most northerly Synergy charger, and I think Ravensthorpe is the most easterly, and Kalgoorlie is also on the Swiss. But for instance, Norseman and Esperance, and to the east of that, are not on the Swiss. So that money will just go as revenue to Synergy/Horizon. But of course, we know that they don't want to earn that revenue. It's an optional taxation. It's like speeding fines. You don't have to incur an idle fee. Just make sure you come back to your car within the grace period.
Yeah,
and be a good citizen.
So just say Kings Park, there's going to be one there.
Yes.
Let's just say someone's like, doesn't care about money because, you know, they're a bowler or whatever. They just park up there and they plug in, they go for a nice restaurant, whatever. They're in there for 3 hours and they got to pay $200 worth of idle fees or whatever. Like, whatever, I could park right near here. It didn't really bother me that much.
Yep.
Is there potential to actually get fines on top of that, or is it always just going to be $1 and that's it?
That's something we should lobby the state government, because, for example, I think, is it New South Wales? Is their fine up? Is it $2,000 or $3,000 for a
$2,200?
Right, $2,200 for any vehicle that's parked at an EV charging location that's not charging. So if it's an ICE car, it's automatic, and if it's an EV, if you're standing there while not charging, you're also subject to a similar fine.
Yeah. So the problem with that system is that it requires someone to be there to actually give them a fine, right? Which is difficult to police when there's going to be so many more charges around and they've probably got better things to do. But if they could incentivize people to actually report these things and provide evidence themselves, then it would be far more easy to police. If you could say, all right, you download this app, you got to do these 5 things or whatever, provided those 5 things, we can give the person a fine. If you miss any of those things, then we can't find them.
There's an app called Snap Send Solve, where it's not just for parking fines, it's for, you know, maybe abandoned vehicles. You snap a picture, you send it to the relevant council, and then they go and solve the problem. And a lot of people over East are using that for reporting people that are parked, like icing an EV charging spot.
But they can't
only
issue a fine.
Only some councils are actually responding to that and doing something about it.
Yeah, they can't issue a fine through the app though. They still got to be present at the location to do their own thing. It's similar to in New York where they have that idling truck law, where if you can video camera a diesel truck idling for longer than 5 minutes, I think it is, you can take 40% of the commission of the fine or something like that. and people are making, I think one guy quit his job, he's making like 100 grand a year just doing that. If that was then incentivized, then firstly you'd save on manpower from the local government authorities that have to manage it, and then they'd also get revenue because they don't have to worry, but they get, I don't know, 60% of the revenue that generated from the fine, and you have this huge base of people that are reporting everybody, which would then create a message that I can't park here, the same as parking in this disabled spot. You just don't do it. At the moment, I think it's more acceptable to park in a EV charging spot. Even if you're an EV not charging or an ICE car, makes no difference really. Because I can't see the problem going away if there's no real action for the offence, if that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Snapchat Solve thing, I've had limited success with that. Like I was actually reporting somebody parked within the council's car park with that, and they still said, "Oh no, we can't attend it," and it was literally in their car park. So like, if they can't do that, then there's no chance. What's the point, you know?
But you need the best solution, I think, is that the City of Albany have actually got an offence for icing an EV charging location, and I think possibly even if you're EVing it, if you're fully charged, but you're better off with a state government approach. So if the state government says it's an offence on a registered EV charging location to park there if you're an ICE car, or to stay there too long if you're an EV, I think that's a much better solution. And that's what the New South Wales or Victorian government, whichever one it was, has done.
And New South Wales and I think ACT have done it as well.
That's what we need, because then that's a blanket. Then it's actually probably the police, or I don't know who polices it, but and possibly you could do, Russell, like you could take a photo yourself, and as long as you're prepared to do an affidavit and appear in court and give evidence that you observed this vehicle doing whatever it was, then they would pursue it. You could take it to the cops and whatever.
Yeah, unlikely that's going to happen on a large scale though. So it's probably
But and there will, like you say, there will be some. Look, we know currently there's a Model X owner in Perth that frequents the Karrinyup supercharger, takes the Prime Bay and does not plug in, and has done that time again, just over and over multiple times, and has or hasn't been approached by various owners and just militantly says, I don't care, I'm more important than everyone else.
Does
Oh,
the
you would be, he's got my legs.
people, sorry, butting in, but does the valet people do anything if someone reports it to the valet parking people?
They can't. It's not the valet. It's not. The issue is Tesla has obviously leased those bays, so in essence, it's Tesla's property. But I've also heard from Stockland, for example, in Riverton, where they say that they don't have any jurisdiction over any of those bays. You can just park a semi-trailer across 10 bays if you wanted, and there's not a lot they can really do. I mean, they could try and take you to court on a civil action, but that stuff just doesn't fly. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, so, Harold, there's at our Stockland in Baldivis, the manager there says he can't do anything. He cannot write a parking ticket. But at his previous shopping centre, he could. He had tickets. He could walk out and put parking fines on cars that were parked illegally. And it just comes down to whichever the local rule is for that particular car park.
Yep, precisely. So I think, Russell, it's going to be the Wild West. But at least as far as the WIEV network, they are doing the right thing, which is implementing a idle fee, and that will assist many EV owners who are a spectrum of our society to do the right thing. And look, there'll be people that'll just use the credit card acceptor. They'll go to Coles and buy a $20 credit card, Visa debit card, and then they'll just park there all day because they militantly say, well, I can do what I like, mate.
Well, that's what I was going to do. It's going to get cheap parking in Kings Park every day. Well, that's why I was checking if they could unplug me or not. just go to buy a
They can't.
debit card and swipe it for $20 and then you're done for the whole day, right? Cheaper than parking in the city.
Hmm.
Now I just see Mr. Richard Cooper is on the train. Now, Richard, I did get that email you sent me to book. Oh, very nice view of the Italian countryside. And you're doing not quite doing 200 k's an hour, but that's okay. You'll have to book it yourself because when you click on the link, Richard, it actually asks me to log in to using your username and password, of which I don't know either. Oh, I know your email address, but I don't know your password. I'm not going to ask you. But just pick any day. Any day next week will be fine.
I think it's Colgate 69, isn't it?
It probably is. But yeah, so Richard, just pick any day you like. I don't know if Tuesday is still available. Actually, Russell, do you remember? I think Richard's just gone through a tunnel, or is his phone about to go through his mouth? But
I think it was Tuesday and Thursday where there's got options for memory, but don't quote me on that because I saw whatever the earliest one I just picked. So
yeah, so Richard, just pick anything. Tuesday and Thursdays, both those days are good for me. Let me just see. I've got to wash my hair on Wednesday. No, that's okay. Yeah, Tuesday, Thursday is fine.
if you can get Tuesday at 10, Richard, that'd be good because that's where I'm going. You can meet me there.
Yeah, I'm gonna meet Russell there too. Actually, if we can make it Tuesday at 10 a.m, so then I can drag off Russell in your car, which would be awesome. There's nothing at all that could possibly go wrong.
We'll test the emergency braking.
And we'll see how much effort it does take to peel a tire off one of those rims, Richard.
I wonder if Richard's account is already hooked onto his car. We could probably purchase a few things on it as well while we're there.
Oh, yes. A few accessories, perhaps.
Need some accessories.
We get the tow package done for his car and then whip it off and put it on another car. Oh, and we'd want you to get full self-driving, of course, so we'll order that for you as well. Oh, dear. Anyway, but yeah, so yeah, just book it anytime you want, Richard, and I'll pick it up for you. It's
I
all
know
good.
Richard we can't really hear him because he's on mute, but
He's on
we
mute.
know, Richard, are you selling the 3 or are you keeping the 3? Thumbs up for keeping. Keeping.
Oh,
selling.
selling.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. All right. Well,
Alright,
the good news is there's only 56 Model 3s on car sales in WA, so it's
think
less than
Whoever
there
gets
were.
Richard's car is going to be in for a bit of a surprise. All those features he's got going on. I think that's probably the most tricked out Model 3 that's in WA for sure. So I don't think the value could be represented in the price that you get for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's got a yoke, it's got all sorts of stuff, automatic bonnet, automatic boot,
Not taking it out. Look, trading it
Oh,
up to put it on the
taking it
white.
all out. Oh, well, okay.
Not the automatic present doors though. They're going to stay. That's a pain in the ass to get in and out. Yeah, thought so.
Mm.
Yeah, all right. Maybe one
And
of the
in
guys at Tesla buy it because they can't figure out how to do it themselves.
Well, speaking of cars that are for sale, would you believe there's actually 2 Model Ys for sale, but they're both dealers, and one wants a very reasonable $82,888 plus on roads for a rear-wheel drive Model Y, and the other one wants a very reasonable $78,990 for a rear-wheel drive Model Y, and that just sounds like bullshit.
Did you see? Have you seen the Model 3, the second-hand Model 3 on the Tesla site? A 2020 long range with the 980 motor, or sorry, 990 motor, which is the performance motor, I would think. It starts 4.1 seconds with FSD for 63,800. Thought that was a bargain. If someone knew what I was getting with that.
I'm just trying to find it now.
Because my understanding is that the rear motor in that year of Model 3 is actually the performance motor. So you can actually upgrade it to go the 3.2 seconds.
So you mean
If
this
you
one
were
for
wanting to do that.
63,000?
And it gets FSD as well.
That's a bit cheap.
Yeah.
Yes, excluding
Especially
taxes.
if you're a bit of a modder like myself, you can get that thing going faster than a performance if you really wanted to. Because it's got the 19-inch wheels as well. Like that thing that'd be a beast.
Yeah, but that's
It's done
63.
55,000 K though.
Yeah.
So doesn't matter.
It's only got another 25 before the warranty's over.
Yeah, but I mean, what I do to it, there wouldn't be a warranty left. Like that's not the issue. It'd be more. You could pick up, like you'd be essentially getting the same speed as a Performance 3 for 65 grand.
Yeah, but you can get performance 3s for 70 grand.
With
Well,
FSD.
you just get a Model 3. Oh, well, you can't. That's a dual motor, isn't it? So 81 plus. Yeah, so it's
Yeah, but
20 grand less.
this one's going to go 3.3 seconds though. Those don't go like 4.9 or something, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
What year was that inventory one?
The 2020,
Okay. Yeah.
Just trying to go back to inventory. Here we go.
because it's a US made one.
Fremont
Yeah.
5 wide bin.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it there. What pearl white. So details. Yeah, 560 Ks, 4.1 seconds. Yeah, you're right, Russell. It'll go like a rocket.
No. So that 4.1 is what I'll do now.
Yes.
Do you remember when they first came out? You could actually upgrade to the stealth, like the performance, for a
Yep.
few weeks or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
So the car has it integrated fast. You just got to get in the mod to make it do that. So if
Yes.
anyone actually buys it and they want help, just give me a call and I can help you out.
I'm quite surprised that they're selling it with FSD. I thought that Tesla's policy was to strip out the FSD when they resold it.
It says FSD compatible. It doesn't say
Oh, isn't it?
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
because the
It's
one
included.
because
Oh,
the
it's
one
included.
next to it, no, because the one next to it in the registration there, if you go back a page,
Yeah, yeah, doing that.
it
Yeah.
just says
Hang on 2
enhanced
secs.
autopilot. So I thought that meant that one had FSD and the other one didn't.
Yeah, does
Yes.
It says full self-driving capability.
included. Yeah, that means that FSD is included. Because FSD has always been referred to as FSD capability, not actually full self-driving.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. That is true because this one here is only enhanced autopilot included, and the other one is full self-driving capability included.
Yeah.
So it's not just capable, it's included.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Because it says the currently enabled features require active driver supervision, blah de blah, and the features. So it already says auto lane change, which we know is only on FSD. If you have FSD as a package, navigate in autopilot, auto park, summon, traffic light, stop, sign control.
That's what's in FSD here.
Yes.
The traffic light.
Yeah. So that is definitely got someone paid $10,000, $10,100 or so for FSD.
Yeah.
And they're leaving it in. That's unusual.
Yeah,
It's not for Australia. No, not in Australia. I don't think there's been any sign of Tesla removing FSD on any cars for that matter, but even particularly a customer's second-hand car,
Yeah, right.
a trade-in car.
I ask
So that's
a
the US.
question there?
Yes. So yeah, go,
does-
Colin.
Will the FSD go with the car, or can it
Yes.
stay with the owner?
No. And that's a big bugbear. And worse still, if you get your car, when I pick up Richard Cooper's performance Model Y, and then he puts FSD on it for $10,100, and if when I have a drag with Russell and wrap it around a tree and write it off for Richard because I'm just that kind of guy, when the car is replaced under insurance, you will not be able to roll over the FSD. That has no real value because the FSD didn't get destroyed, the car did. The FSD that you paid $10,100 for is just a software switch that enables the car to do that. So you not only can you not transfer it from one car to another car, you can't even transfer it if the brand new car you just paid for was written off permanently.
It's just grossly unfair. It's just it's not right.
Do you think FSD will be significantly better at interpreting things, situations in Australia compared to autopilot? For example, I don't think autopilot has any clue about pairs of traffic lights where, you've got a red light going to the turn right and green light going straight ahead. My Model X beeps at me and says it's okay to go ahead, but it's not.
Yes, that's a ding. It does a little ding, and it doesn't really pay a lot of attention whether it's the green arrow or the red stop sign. But the short answer is yes, it will be significantly better. And if you want evidence of that, you just need to look at some of the FSD beta videos that are taken in the States. And those cars drive in some amazing places and really complex intersections and do so much vastly better than autopilot. So autopilot is nothing compared to what FSD is. It's just that none of us in Australia have seen it yet.
And that specific example you're referring to, Colin, the car itself has no intelligence to recognise the Australian stoplights and things. It's set up on the US system, which aren't the same as Australia, and just so happens to work from time to time. However, when they do look to roll out FSD or FSD beta into Australia, they're going to have to spend a lot of time before that using the information we've already given them with our captured footage to build up enough library of information to have an FSD package compatible with the Australian region, which could be similar to New Zealand potentially, and we'd have our own sort of Australia, New Zealand sort of package potentially. But other countries like Singapore and Hong Kong and all of that, they're all going to have their own unique builds of FSD to suit their local traffic environment and regulations.
Our software here in Australia is a good 4 to 6 years behind the US. So when we get FSD, it will be a huge jump in competence.
Just for interest for the group, I've just ordered an upgrade to my Model X to a new one. Anticipated delivery in a year to 18 months' time. But that's perhaps Elon Musk time. So,
Colin, you may actually get a Model X in a year and a half. I ordered, and someone else in this room ordered a Model X on the 9th of January 2021, and the website said estimated delivery March that year, and still waiting. So
don't hold my breath is the answer.
Yes, don't. No, please don't. You'll go blue and it will hurt.
Harold, where's that violin again?
Oh, yes, that's right. So I was actually just Googling, for my sins, I was Googling various interesting traffic light configurations. But anyway, yes, I do have the violin because the violin's always handy. But yes, there's no need to cry for me, Argentina. I will get over it.
You're going to trigger it again, Harold.
But I am going to play the violin because it's important for everyone to participate. But yeah, so Colin, it's going to be, one thing that was interesting was Tesla did ask me to fill out my registration information, which normally means it's only a few months away before they start delivering them. And they asked me that a few months ago, but don't know.
I saw on Rob Mauer mentioned that they were looking to send S's and X's to the APAC region shortly, maybe
Yes.
a few weeks ago. Yeah,
that's in a country known as South Korea, and I had to Google it and go, I know Japan's right-hand drive. Is South Korea right-hand drive? Because Hyundai's a right-hand drive, but they're not. They're left-hand drive, so that's why. Same as China, mainland China. Sorry. So and the reason why we're not going to get.
But because they've started bringing S's and X's into Europe, haven't they?
Yep.
Right-hand drives into the UK and things.
That's correct. So the reason why we're not going to get it for a long time is if we have a look at this image here. This is from Munro and Associates. This is a torn down Model Y, and you can see you've got your steering wheel penetrations for left and right hand drive, and you've also got, I think that's your brake booster or whatever pedal arrangement, and you can see they're completely symmetrical. This car is actually a Austin built Model Y, and even though it is, and they only produce left-hand drive cars in Austin, Model Ys, they've got the symmetrical bulkhead. Now, this is the plaid Model S teardown, and you can see it's in the reverse direction, but this is the left-hand drive shaft hole for the steering shaft and your brake booster, and you notice that they don't have that same symmetrical thing on the Model S. And I bet London to a brick that the Model X is the same. Tesla, in their, I'm going to say it facetiously, in their wisdom, they've decided not to have symmetrical bulkheads on those two models. And that's why we're waiting forever, because they have to do a special pressing, and it'll be a separate section of their line that will have to make right-hand drive Model S's and X's. And that's why we're waiting forever. And that's what it's about.
I wonder once they start building the right-hand drives, whether they'll then go to a symmetrical firewall.
Wouldn't that be a great if they said, okay, we're going to do a run of right-hand drives, we'll make it symmetrical, so then we'll do a bulkhead that's like this.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they're making us wait forever, because they haven't got round to it yet.
Well, also,
So would you sell your Performance Y if the X came then?
Yes.
That's a no-brainer question, that one, Alison.
I didn't know.
And to cap that off, Alison, not only will I sell my Performance Y when the X comes, but I'll sell the X when the Cybertruck comes.
You're after me in the queue for the Cyber.
I think I'm slightly ahead of you, Alison, just quietly, because I
Yeah, but
joined
you're
that
not as
queue
lucky as me, are you?
No.
No.
Well,
One question, do you know if, because I saw in the States, you can actually now pay monthly for these extra, you don't have to pay 10,000 to have it, which I don't want to do, or 5,000 to have the autopilot. So now you can pay a monthly fee. That would then negate the problems you're talking about. If there was a car accident, who cares? Because you're just going to stop your subscription and you can start it again with your new car.
that's 100% correct.
there's a couple of problems with that, Alison. So the first one is right now, we're paying about $10,000-ish, 12,000, whatever it is, for FSD in Australia. The equivalent cost in the United States is over double our costs. So if we were to pay the cost now and the price continued to increase, we wouldn't have to pay that increase here because we already locked it in at a lower price. So in the future, currently the subscription cost for FSD in America is, I don't know, say $200 a month. I don't know the exact number, but let's say that. When the cost of FSD starts to increase, that subscription cost is also going to go up. So rather than being $200, it'll be $1,000 a month potentially.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that means that you've essentially, we've got a perpetual license of this thing at a lower cost, which effectively Tesla probably want to get rid of because it's just a cost to them. Just the same as Harold's Model X has lifetime free supercharging. They don't want those on the roads anymore because it's costing them money having that around. So I would feel in the future, there's going to be no option to buy FSD outright, and you can only choose subscription because the increase in value is going to be so significant. Unless you're like a huge company and you can afford hundreds of thousands of dollars a year worth of licensing fees, the average person is not going to be able to pay $200,000 for FSD because it's going to cost more than the car. The value
it won't cost 200,000, but it might cost 150,000 Australian. So yeah, and I agree with that, Russell, 100%.
So for example, the price differential, this is the American order thing, and it's 15,000 US dollars for FSD in the States. And if we flick back to Australia, it's
10.
only 10,100,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
just here, 10,100.
Yeah.
So
And
we
that's
have
just gone up 100, hasn't it? Was
no,
10.
it's been like that for almost a couple of years, I think.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw it at 10.
So
So you're
15,000.
saying it's better to buy it now because then you would
No.
always have it?
No, not at all. No. Yeah,
Okay.
one thing that Elon Musk did promise, he did claim this, was that we would get some days' notice before Tesla put the price up for FSD or enhanced autopilot, because now luckily we can go halfway. You can get most of the features, paying roughly half the price. He did say that we'd get some days' notice, and the big milestone for that would be when Tesla announces that they're going to launch FSD beta in Australia. Then you'll get that step change in price. And I guess if you go by the American example, that would be, well, it should be a doubling roughly. It should go from 10,100 to close to 20,000 Australian. But we'll get a few days notice, so you'll be able to make that decision without it being in hindsight.
So if you've paid the 5,000 one for autopilot, do you
Yes.
only pay the 5,000 extra for the other one?
No, you'd probably, yeah, that's right, yes. But if the price then has a step change, enhanced autopilot is 50% of the cost of FSD. So I imagine, I don't know this for certain, but it sounds fair that if you've paid for half of what you wanted, then you'll pay half of the new difference. So if FSD goes from 10,000 to 20,000, and if you've already paid 5,000 for autopilot or enhanced autopilot, you would probably then pay 10,000 to get from advanced autopilot to FSD if the price doubled, if you know what I mean. I very much doubt it'd be difficult for Tesla to mount a fair argument that you'd go from 5,000 and have to add 15 to go to FSD. I don't think that's what Tesla would do. And like I said, Elon Musk has publicly stated that they would always give you some notice. It's not like you're going to wake up in the morning and go, ta-da, it's now doubled. You would be given
So
some
you could
days
buy
notice.
it at a cheaper price if you want.
Yes, and you can do it literally from your phone app using your credit card,
Yeah,
providing
yeah,
you've
I
got
see
enough.
it there, yeah.
Yep. And I tell you what, it's a super cool thing to do. I actually saw a lady do this, and I think Russell did it actually live as well when he bought enhanced autopilot. Is you literally go on the app and you say, buy it now, and it says, are you sure? And you go, yes. And within seconds, the screen on your car flashes, blanks off, and comes back on. It sometimes does this twice, and then bango, you've got it.
Wow.
So it's that quick. It really is. But like I said, you are going to have time. And if Elon Musk forgets and Tesla does it, then we just all tweet at him and complain, and then they'll say, okay, well, we'll abide by the lower price, because nowhere in the world have they done it where the price has gone up and no one's had the opportunity to get fair warning. But it could
So
be.
have most of you got autopilot or not? Because I haven't bothered with either. The only thing I pay monthly for is for the subscription for the Wi-Fi thing, but I haven't done autopilot or FSD.
Enhanced
So do most
autopilot.
people do the autopilot?
I've got 3 cars, Alison, and I did it on my first one, but not on the last 2 I bought.
Okay. Because I
Russell,
read
you've-
mixed reports, and there were a
autopilot.
few people on the page said that because they got a 3 months trial or something, and they were all saying it's just not worth it. But I don't know. I was looking at it, but didn't know.
I think the feedback from people on the internet is usually not super accurate for the
Yeah, that's
quality
why
of
I'm
the
asking
content.
here if anybody's got it.
So
You know?
so there's you really got to decide like what you want to get out of it and if it's like worth the money. So for me personally, I didn't want to buy FSD at 10,000 because I didn't see the benefit in the cost. And when they then released the advanced autopilot, I bought it pretty much that same week it was released. I think I delayed my purchase just so we could do it on the live thing here. When I first started using it, probably for the first at least like 3 or 4 weeks, it was actually took a little bit of time to get used to the functionality of how to get the best out of it, changing some of the settings and knowing when to twitch your steering wheel at certain times to make it do what you want it to do. There's sort of subtle gestures you can give it to make it perform better, like automatic lane changes and things like that, knowing when it works well and when it doesn't. I don't think I would really want to go without it now because I use mainly the auto lane change function and the navigate and autopilot freeway function every single time I drive. And I actually was in a situation the other week where I thought I had the navigate and autopilot turned on and I missed my exit because the car didn't turn off by itself. So I was somewhat reliant on the function.
You have to pay attention, Russell.
Yeah, I thought it usually just turns off and it didn't. I'm like, oh crap, and I had to, anyway. The parking, the parking stuff, like it's not worth it for that. Like it doesn't really work that well. Hopefully in the future they make some fixes to it to actually make it park itself properly, but it's a bit hit and miss. I don't really rely on it too much. My wife's too afraid to use it because she doesn't want to scratch the rims. So, and even when it does do parking, it doesn't quite get as good as what you can park anyway. With the summon functionality, I mean, I use it in Bunnings just because I can, but realistically,
That's the one I wanted. I thought it would be quite cool.
Yeah, you use it a few times, but
It's the only thing I'd use. Hello, come to mommy.
It's very stressful. So when you do it, you're always like on edge about if it's going to hit something or if someone's going to hit it or whatever. And realistically, it's more of a cool thing to have right now.
Give me no PowerPoint.
Yeah. If it worked better, I would use it a lot more, but I don't have the confidence in it at the moment to actually get it to work properly. I do use the summon function, manual summon, when I have a tight parking spot or something and I want to back it in. So I'll hop out of the car, press backwards and it drives in by itself. I use that just so I can get further away from the car beside me if I'm parked up against a wall or something.
I use that almost on a daily basis now. Because we've got a fairly narrow garage and my wife has scraped the side of the car coming out of the garage. So now she doesn't want to take the car out. So I either get her to do it or I just do not the smart summon, but just the summon and just have the car go forward. So the car hasn't scratched itself yet, but my wife has scratched the car.
Yeah. If I could just butt in here for a second. Two things.
Go, Nigel.
Harold, there's another Alison with a hand up, but to the Alison asking the questions, I've had 2 Teslas. My first one I had for over 3 years and I paid for full self-driving. And after 3 years, I didn't think it was worth it. On my new Tesla, I paid for enhanced autopilot, the 5100, because it's got almost the same functionality as the 10 grand version, but without the traffic light and roundabout stop. Otherwise, I find that's very useful. Like Russell, it takes you off the freeway and so on. You've got to be careful using summon in a public, on a public gazetted road because you can be fined by the police.
Well, it won't let you, Nigel. It's geofenced.
Is it now in?
Yeah.
Well, no, it has been previously as well. So if you're in a shopping centre car park, that's considered as private property because the car park is the private property of the shopping centre owner.
Not always.
So you are allowed, the car will let you do it in that instance. But yeah, even if you're close to a public road and it thinks even though you might be in a private car park, sometimes you won't let you do it because you're too close to the public road.
With mine, I reverse mine out of my driveway and it stops right before, like it doesn't go down my whole driveway. The nose of the car stays inside the garage. It won't go any further because it thinks it's going to go onto a road. So it's a little bit, But yeah, I mean, honestly, it comes down to cost. If you can afford $5 grand and it means nothing to you, just buy it. If you can't afford the $5 grand, I mean, don't buy it. It's not that good that I'd use my last $5,000 on that. It's more of a privilege than a necessity, I would think, at the moment.
Thank you.
Alison, the other Alison, hand up for a while.
Hello, can you
Sorry
hear
about
me?
that. We thought
Yeah,
it was
welcome,
saying
Alison. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I have a question, but I just wanted to firstly say we are heading across to Nullarbor next week. And I just want to say big thanks to the club for the loan of some chargers and a spare tyre. Fabulous service.
No worries.
Thank you
No
very
worries.
much. The question I could probably find out myself, but I'm a bit lazy. How much, if we put camp mode on, about how much power would that take up?
Very little. So, how are you charging it? Are you going to charge it on the 3-phase like at the various roadhouses?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So camp mode's irrelevant because it doesn't make any difference to what your car's doing. So don't worry about it at all. Because you'll only just run the air conditioner, and at this time of year it's going to be cool, so it's probably going to hardly do anything, to be honest.
Okay.
Heating or cooling.
Yep.
So, Alison, when Harold and I went around Australia, I slept in the car every night for the 16 nights, and I used camp mode every single night. And most nights I was on a 15 amp, just a caravan socket, and yeah, I'd wake up every morning with 100%. So yeah, it never made zero difference.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was in September, and that was in the Northern Territory where I arrived in Fitzroy Crossing at 7:30 at night, and it was still 39 degrees. So I don't think you'll have any issues at all.
If you had camp mode on and you weren't charging though, that's when you're going to have battery drain.
Yeah, of course.
If you intended to do that, that's a different situation.
About how much would that be if you weren't charging?
You're probably going to pull about, no, it all depends on the air conditioner usage. So if you pump on the aircon, you're trying to keep it really cool or really hot or whatever, I guess you could use up to about 2 kilowatt, I guess. Does that sound about right? I don't know, I'm just guessing, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
So theoretically...
But it's fairly rare with these temperatures that you'd pull that much, because it all depends on your fan speed and the temperature differential between outside and inside, and whether you've got it on recirculate or whether you're bringing in fresh air from the outside. So there's quite a few variables, but yeah, I don't think you'd be putting 2 kilowatts in the current weather.
No, I don't think so. I mean, worst case scenario, you're probably looking at an 8-hour sleep or something, maybe maximum. I could see if the aircon's cranking probably about 10 kilowatt hour potentially. But reasonably, if you in the climate at the moment, maybe like 2 kilowatt hours or 3 maybe at the most, I would think. Because you're not running central mode or anything as well. So Pete?
So was that over a 10-hour period?
I was saying like 8 hours. So for like a sleep, like 8 hour sleep or whatever, you're probably looking at 2 or 3, maybe most, if you're not plugged in, of drain.
Yeah. I can't say because I was plugged in every single night. So unfortunately,
what you can do, Alison, is just leave your car in your garage at the moment, put cam mode on one night, and see how much it uses, and that will be a pretty good indication of what to expect when you're traveling.
Yeah. Yep.
And report back next week and let us all know how much it used overnight.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess that's a similar thing to what Harold was talking before about testing out some of these scenarios for yourself on the way to somewhere with the Exmouth thing. If you're heading somewhere like not sure about it, go somewhere safe and just try the same thing in a controlled environment so you don't get surprised when you get there.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, if you're plugged in to the 3-phase outlet, it's totally fine. Yeah. I mean, if you're plugged in on 10 amps, then you could use more than that. But again, like Peter was saying, look, you could draw a couple of kilowatts, but that would only be to get your car to temperature. And after that, like I said, you're going to have mild nights. And if you've got two people, you know, each one of you represents 100 watts of energy. So you'll be warming the cabin yourselves. So you're going to use very little power at all. It's just a rounding error, really. And particularly if you're plugged in, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just one bit of advice as a courtesy to others who may be camping right next to you. So if there's a tent right next to you, just be mindful that the fan does make, you know, some level of noise. So, you know, yeah, they may or may not be bothered by that, you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning if it kicks in a bit louder. But yeah, like during the 16 nights, like I said, I didn't have a single issue with that or anything else.
Okay.
Did you have your car on recirculate or fresh air in, Pete?
I had it on recirculate because I just figured that was a more efficient way of running it.
Yeah.
Because if there's a differential between the outside and the inside, it might take you 15 minutes to reach your desired temperature. But once you've reached it, you're recirculating the same temperature air rather than having to cool or heat it, you know, constantly. So yeah, it was
by dropping the oxygen level.
And well, I did some testing on that, Daniel, with some sensors and things, and
yeah, I remember.
Recirculate still does pull a bit of fresh air in anyway, and even when you do introduce gaseous substances into the vehicle from human excretion, they tend to be managed relatively quickly, even in that sort of like environment. So, or if not, it says recirculate. It's not full recirculate. I'm thinking it does maybe like 80% or 90% or something potentially.
It does pull a little bit of fresh air in. It has to, by sort of law almost. But yeah, but it does save on energy.
For some of those situations that you mentioned or alluded to a little bit earlier there, Russell, you may want to think about the Model Y's biodefense mode.
Not to keep stuff out, not keep stuff in.
Sorry, bioweapon defense mode. Yeah, but you just got to run it in reverse.
Well, you're going to walk past the cars and do some crop dusting, are you, Pete, just to annoy the campers?
Crop dusting, I like that. I actually used it, that part of the trip from Broome to Fitzroy Crossing. When I left Broome, they only just opened the road only like an hour earlier because there was a fire going through. And even when I drove through the road, there was, you know, ambers and there was little spot fires just on the side of the road, and you could smell the fire everywhere. So I turned the bioweapon defense mode on and, couldn't smell a thing. It was really effective. Used more power, but that's all right because I was behind a truck.
Was that all your questions, Alison? Or did we cut you off, or was that everything you had to ask about the trip? So that was it. Okay, cool.
All right, cool. Anyone else got any other questions or comments? So I've just been trying to text Richard Cooper.
Oh yeah.
Actually, Richard, just not. Can you hear us? I don't think you've moved for a while. I think you might not be. No, I think
someone's stolen his phone.
I think someone's. Probably. Oh no, he just came back. Here we go. He's back. Okay, so just read the message I just sent you. So Tessa knows I'm getting it, don't they? Yes, very good. Okay, no problem. All good. I'll talk to Alex when I'm there. It's all good. Right, sorry about that. Anyone else got any other questions or comments?
I've got another
Go, Russell.
thing I can talk
Go
about.
on, Russell.
Okay, so I've noticed, I don't know if it was to do with a particular update recently or what, but my car's been doing some weird things that I didn't expect. So for instance, if my car's set to say 90% charge and it's sitting at say 70%, but it said to stop, like don't charge this yet. It's like not started, like stop. Sometimes when I log into the app, it just starts charging by itself without me actually pressing start. And for whatever reason, the other night, I woke up in the morning and the car had been charging for 3 hours, and like I hadn't told it to start. I don't know if that's like a common thing or it's happening a bit, is it? All right.
It is because one of my mates, Jason, he's got a HPWC,
Yeah.
and he only charges in the daytime, and he sets. Oh, it got to its set point, 90%,
Yeah.
because it's an
Yeah.
NCA battery. And even though it was at 90% and it didn't actually drop much at all, it actually started charging when he told it to stop overnight. As it
Yeah, that's
drooped
happened to me
down,
too.
it just started charging. And Tesla, one theory they thought was the Gen 3 wall connector, but I know that's just not right because
I've got the Gen 3 wall
nothing
connector as well.
well,
But to add to that, adds complexity. Another day, I got a notification at like 5 o'clock in the morning, or no, 1 o'clock in the morning or something. When I woke up, it said car at desired temperature, right? And then another notification 3 hours later saying climate control switched off due to inactivity or something. Like it cooled the car down to say 20 degrees or 24 degrees, whatever, ran it for like 3 hours and go, oh, you're not getting in the car, I'm trying to turn off. And like this was when I was fast asleep. So it all sort of happened around about the same time. So what I'm doing now, the air conditioner thing hasn't happened again, so that could have just been something weird. But with the charging thing, because it's happening quite a lot, like it happens sort of every couple of days, I'm actually, every time I say stop charging, I roll back the charger to say 60% or 70% or something below the level I'm at. So even if it does turn on, it's not going to charge anyway.
Yeah, but that's a shame you got to do that because it becomes a bit laborious, and then you might forget to roll it back the other way, and then you find that you're not as charged as you thought you were, and that's not great.
It's easy to manage if you know what's happening, but yeah, for a person that's not so, I don't know,
techie
involved in it, it might be a little bit frustrating. I don't really mind too much. It's more, I didn't know if I'd set something up or whether it was just an update I had, but
it happened to me as well, Russell. And mine doesn't has stopped charging at 3:05 instead of 3:30, 3:40.
Yeah, okay. Stop charging. What?
Well, it doesn't charge as long. It doesn't go to the kilometers set.
Oh, really? That's weird. Have you got the thing set saying only charge during off-peak times clicked on yours?
No. I charge during the day because I've got solar.
Yeah.
Oh, so in other words, you set it to like 90%, which is 300 and whatever kilometers, and then it doesn't make it like it.
No, for no reason. But it only happened since the last update.
And have you got Sentry mode turned on, Carmen?
Sentry mode.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because that can, after some time, it can start consuming the battery a little bit. So then it will sag down until it gets, I don't know, whether it's 20 or 30 kilometers less, and then it will actually start charging again.
I've actually taken it off.
Yeah.
By the looks of this. I thought I had it on, but it isn't. I'll go and check what it's set to. Now, it's done it again. Now it only, maybe I've been out. It's only 285 and I charged it fully this afternoon.
There has been a little bit in the past, a bit of variation in the way it charges, and it does seem to follow firmware updates.
Yeah, that's what I thought that the actual charger itself might be getting an update or something which caused it, because we're not privy to those updates on the actual wall connector. Unless you go into it and look at it yourself manually, you don't know it's been updated. It could have been updated to a newer version, and that could have happened potentially. But yeah, anyway, now I know it's not just me, then I'll forget about it.
No, it's not just you. Yep.
Also, maybe like, I don't know if this has been brought up before, but a while ago, I'm thinking 2 or 3 months ago, could have even been like a November or December update. I did an update, and then after that, every time now I drive my car and the air conditioner's on, I'll drive for about a kilometer or so, and this clicking noise happens in the aircon system. It goes, it sort of like sounds like it's coming from the front of the car, like in the dashboard area. It does like 5 or 6 clicks and then it just stops. if I don't have the aircon system on, it doesn't happen. It's almost like it's like when they change some like aircon setting in one of the updates, it's like it's handling the processing differently. And maybe the thermal expansion of something in there is cooling down far faster than it was before, causing it to like dramatically sort of change in size or readjust or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, it's not really a problem, but it's more, I don't know if anyone else has noticed that same thing in their
I
car.
haven't found, I'm finding that it's not as efficient. And I hadn't changed the settings, but I fiddled with them and then it's come back to normal.
One of the
and that
settings is,
happened after an update as well.
one of the things that's changed, which I don't find fantastic, or there should be an option to undo it, is you get to choose the airflow, like you get to choose the temperature and then also the airflow. And what I'd like is, and you can either set it to low, medium or high, what I'd like is to have an option to set it to automatic. So let the car decide what's the best airflow to get to the set point, rather than me pick.
If you're trying to cool the car down or keep the same temperature, high at 24 degrees isn't the same high at 18 degrees. It's a lot harder. Like, if you go high, if you're sitting at 24 and you want high because you just want the fan on your face, it'll only blow, say, level 6, theoretically. But if you crank it down to, say, 18 degrees and still on high, it blows at like 10. Like, why can't they just make high consistent across the board? So I want 24 degrees, but I want to like smash my face. Like, you can't have that option. Unless you put it on manual and say 10. That's the only way you can do it.
Yeah, so there should be manual, or there should be this semi-automatic, low, medium, high. But then there should also be just completely automatic, because if you just pick medium because you don't want to be smashed, well, the thing is, when you first start the car, you may want to go on high initially just to blow that hot air out or whatever, and for it then to moderate automatically, not to just consistently stay at the same fan speed. I think
the only way to get around that is just to put the temperature right down and force it to go real hard.
Yeah,
which is just
and that's what people used to do in the old days when they thought the thermostat would work harder. Except when it's on, and when it's off. So it's just frustrating that they've sort of, I think they thought they were doing something innovative, or at least meeting people's requests, but then they've kind of taken something that was useful. But
Can I raise another couple of little points? One,
absolutely,
makes the same sort of thing. I've noticed that I'm not quite sure whether I'm changing from one Wi-Fi location to another, but the fan speed always drops back to 1. It drives me crackers because I'm always going into the fan speed control on the air conditioner and cranking it back up to 5 or 6 where I want it.
Is that after you've charged, Colin? Because mine does that.
No, not 100% sure on that.
I'm pretty sure that if I charge it and hop in it, the fan speed is 1 again, or very, very low. I'd say 1.
Yep.
And then I always got to flick it up to 3, 4 or 5, something like that. But that's after I charge. Well, that's what I think it is anyway. That's what it appears to be to me.
My understanding is that the fan speed is part of your driver profile. So whatever you had it set on last time, and and you change your seat or whatever, and you saved it, that's what it will do again. So maybe
it's always back down to 1.
Not happening.
Right. Well, try this. Okay, then try this as an experiment. When you see it being at 1, change it to what you want, and then move your seat position just slightly.
Yep.
And you know how it'll have an option of saving or revert. Just go to revert and see what happens.
Okay.
Because when you go to revert, it should go to what's stored on the profile and see if it goes back to 1. And then what you could do is, if it militantly goes back to 1 when you hit revert, but to get revert, you have to actually move it just a little bit, move your seat a little bit. Then if it reverts back to 1, just move your seat a little bit and then hit save with the higher fan speed and try and lock. I think it's a fault with the software revision in the way it stores profiles, or sorry, not stores, retrieves profile information, and
This has
somehow it
been
gets
going on for 18 months through many upgrades.
Yeah, mine's always done it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I try that. I'd move a seat, hit revert, see if the fan goes back down. If it does, I'd contact Tesla and say, look, you've got to fix it. They may suggest something like, try and set up try and do save a new profile.
Yep.
Just temporarily even, and see if that new profile doesn't do that. Unfortunately, to be in that new profile, you'd probably have to change your fob, your key fob, to be attached to that new profile. I think it might be a corrupt profile. Not that either one of you have corrupted it. It's just that Tesla has, in an update, worked out some weird way of corrupting it. So when it reads it back, it misreads the fan speed.
Okay.
Because aircon settings is part of your profile. And I think I've seen something like that too in the past as well, and it's driven me crazy too, because it's super annoying, because you don't quite realise what's going on until you feel you're getting really hot and you go, oh yeah, there's no aircon or no fan, or not much of a fan.
And you're driving as well.
And you're driving and you're sort of distracted, and then you start feeling the heat and get annoyed at doing it for the first 50 times.
The question is a little bit, I would think maybe unusual. I've had the car for 3 years now. In the last 6 months, it's a Model X performance, but this is not related to ludicrous mode. If I accelerate just moderately through about 60 kilometres an hour, the car begins to shudder.
Yep. No, just take it back to Tesla, they'll fix it. It's the half shafts. They need to replace the half shafts, and they'll do that under warranty for free. It costs them about $2,500. In my Model X, I've had 3 half shafts done. Someone I know, Jason's had 6 odd half shaft sets done. It's a known issue, but apparently the very latest revision, which is where they put the Raven half shafts in, allegedly fixes it forever. Fingers crossed. So it's a known issue. It's a known issue. Yeah, there's a website you can look up, which is the NHTSA website that has all the so-called manufacturer communications. It shows all the recalls and all of the service bulletins to do with certain issues, and that half shaft vibration issue has had about 6 revisions. And in the old days, I used to just change half shafts over and over and over again. But now they think they might have fixed it once and for all. So just put in a booking on your Tesla app. Yep. Just say, I think it's suspension components or something like that in the service thing, and just say vibration. Just say front half shaft vibration or front vibration. They'll know what it is, and they'll book it in.
I'm so glad that I logged in tonight.
Oh, anytime. That's what we're
Mine
here
does
for.
the same too, Colin. It's a similar thing. It's not bad, but if you back off a bit and go again, it's gone, but mine's got it.
Yeah.
It's the reason you'll notice that when you put your car into low, high. Was it low? High. When you put it into high, you can only do it up to very high. You can only do it up to 24 kilometers an hour. And I think on high, you can only run the car up to 56 kilometers an hour, because it gets worse when the suspension's high, and it gets lesser when the suspension's low. But low chews out. So another thing, Colin, is make sure that you do not have your car set to automatic lowering at any speed. So make sure you say never, because if you lower your suspension on your Model X, you'll chew out the rear insides of your tires so badly that if you're lucky, you might be driving down the freeway like I've done and feel like this little bump, 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 bump. And that was because the tire had gone through all the belts, through all the steel belts, and was actually bulging on the inner part of the last part of the rubber that was left in the tire. So
there's no specific wear on the tyres at this point.
Right. Just make sure that if the automatic lowering of your suspension, make sure that's set to never. Right. So not at any speed, just set to never. Because there was
what would you normally set it at? Because
normal.
I think
Just set it to
Normal.
normal. Normal. Yes.
okay.
Never set it to low or very low ever.
Unless you're cruising the cafe strip and you want to impress the ladies.
Exactly. That's right. Or you just
Isn't
set it
that
to
every
Harry
day,
High
Russell?
Pants.
Hey guys, can I ask the questions again? Very primitive questions
Yes,
about
Raf.
charging. Hi, Hiya. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, very primitive questions. Because I'm not traveling a lot, very far from Perth, just only Perth around. I'm actually planning to travel to Margaret River. In relation to charging, could you give me the best advice to plan it? Because I don't intend to stay there too long. For a meeting, I'm going for a couple of hours. Then I want to come back to Perth.
Yes.
Could you suggest the best possible way that I can get my car charged fastest?
So the quickest way is you go to the supercharger in Margaret River.
Okay.
So, and you can
I've
make it
actually-
in your car,
do
you
it.
can make it directly to Margaret River from Perth.
Right.
But if you wanted to, you could have a quick break at Eaton supercharger
Right.
while you have a comfort break or a cup of tea or coffee or snack or something like that. So you can be using that useful time, because in the 20 minutes that it would take you to sort of, park your car, plug in, walk to the toilets, get a bite to eat or something, when you get back to your car, you've probably added 100 kilometres of range. So that'll save time. But when you get to Margaret River, you just go on your screen, touch screen, click on charging on the map, and it will show the icon. Just navigate to Margaret River, plug it into the supercharger, and just beware that it will actually charge up your car in less than an hour.
Right.
So if you're in a meeting that goes for, say, a couple of hours,
Yeah.
you might want to get there a little bit earlier, plug in straight away
Yeah.
to the supercharger, then unplug from the supercharger and plug to the destination charger right next door. Like it's 2 bays across,
Right.
and that's a destination charger.
Right.
And then for the 2 hours of your meeting, you'll add 160 k's of range to your car
Right.
on the slow charger. But you can also then just top up on the supercharger enough to get to Eaton, and then you can rinse and repeat and have a quick break at Eaton and then come home.
Okay. Do you need to book that or what?
No. So if I look at the moment, I mean, obviously it's nighttime, but if you look on your Tesla app and you click on location, you can actually see where the supercharge is. So at the moment, Margaret River has 3 out of 3, so they're all available, and Eaton has 6.
Right.
But Margaret River is quicker.
Right.
So you've got a Model 3, haven't you? A long
Yes,
range?
I do. Yeah. No, standard range.
Standard, yeah. So you can just charge at Margaret River, and you can make it from Perth to Margaret River without having to charge. But you might as well stop at Eaton for a little break.
Yeah.
And use that time effectively to top the car up.
Sure. Thank you.
When you say the supercharger, Harold, at Margaret River,
Yep.
you're not talking about the tourist bureau one?
No. So
Where is
so
it?
if we, it's
Woolworths.
it's at the Woolworths underground. Well, it's not underground. It's the ground level car park that's undercover at Margaret River.
Margaret River, okay.
It's called the.
Just off the main street. It's like 2 streets back from the main street. When you go
so
over
if you
the bridge,
look
to
on
Margaret River,
PlugShare.
you just turn left and it's right there.
So it's at the Woolworths. It's the village at Margs. That's what it's called. Woolworths, Margaret River. This is not Tesla's proper, what's the name? But there are actually three superchargers, and there's also 2 or 3 destination chargers. So Sarat, what you should do is, if you get there a little bit early, just plug into the supercharger straight away and get as much as you can straight away.
Sure.
And then when you want to do your meeting, presuming it's walking distance, just plug into the destination charger just to the side.
Yeah.
Because you can stay there for a couple of hours or whatever. And then that will get you a lot of charge in that couple of hours.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
So just make sure you actually navigate to the superchargers.
Yeah.
So you actually go to the navigate menu and press charging, or you press the charging icon. That's part of the 4 icons on the left of your map.
Yeah.
And then select the actual, and you'll find that up to about as far back as about 45 minutes before you actually reach that supercharger. You'll get a little message that will say preconditioning battery. So it will either warm up or cool down the battery, most likely warm it up.
Right.
It's about that 45 degrees, so that you'll be able to charge at the most fast or the fastest rate that it can.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yep. So don't navigate. So 2 seconds. So don't navigate to the address. Navigate to the pin. So click on that red pin that
Right.
shows up on the map,
Yeah.
and then just go navigate to, and
Okay.
then that will make sure that your battery gets preconditioned. Sorry,
Beautiful.
who was going to talk? Sorry
Just
about
make
that.
sure if you want to stop at Eton, do the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
so if you do decide, because you could just put you click on the navigate to Margaret River, and your car will take you straight there because it doesn't need to charge. But if you're planning on stopping at Eden for a comfort break and a snack,
Yeah.
you navigate to Eden, your car will do the same thing. It will preheat the battery, so you get more in your car in the same amount of time. So at 15 minutes, instead of getting, I don't know, 100 kilometers of range, you might get 120 kilometers or something.
Right. Right.
And when you get to the supercharger, if let's say you get to Eton and the first supercharger is occupied, don't go and charge in the bay right next door.
Mhm.
Go to another bay, because otherwise you'll be in Eton. You'll be sharing that car because they've got one connection for 2 stalls, and the 2 stalls share that charge, as we were talking about earlier. In Margaret River, it's not as much of a issue, but you don't want to park right next door to the car that's already charging.
So for example, if you imagine that this car was there and this one wasn't, then and this one wasn't and that one wasn't, park here. Don't park next to a car. So they're paired from left to right. They're 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B.
Right.
So try and there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. So try and not be next to a car.
Yeah. So that means don't share with the same what you call the
Same pair. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
But at
because
Margaret River, it doesn't matter because they're all coming off the one power unit anyway. So Margaret River, just if there's 2 cars there, just park the third one, or if there's 1 car, it doesn't matter where you park in Margaret River.
Okay.
Just and either at Karrinyup doesn't really matter either.
Right.
But basically,
Or it would.
yeah.
Because at Eton, you park next door, and let's say that car's pulling 110 kilowatts, and you park next door, you might both, one might be getting 60, the other one might be getting 50, or 60 and 60.
Right.
Whereas if you park 2 bays down, you might get your 120, and the other person might stay on whatever their charge rate was.
Beautiful. Thank you.
No worries. Alrighty. So has anyone else got any other questions or comments?
If you're in doubt, Sareth, Harold's got a phone number you can call, and I'm sure he'll be
Oh yeah, and
happy
that's
to drop
well. He's
everything
actually got
around.
my mobile number, but because we're besties. But you can, but you can also ring 62623131, which is Tokwa's hotline.
Just out of curiosity, did the news story last week, did you mention that phone number, the lady, when she called you, or was that not through those channels? Because that was quite interesting.
You mean that Channel
Were you wearing a
7? That
cape
channel?
as well? Did you have like a mask on and a cape, or how did you?
I didn't even watch it, to be perfectly honest. So I heard it was a bit controversial. Anyway,
I giggled a bit, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yes. Did it show? I know that they were filming my car doing the Tesla light show. Was that part of the? Did that feature in the news article?
Yes.
And you had your back to the camera, Harold.
Because I was looking forlornly towards the cars coming towards me. I remember that well. It wasn't quite like that scene in Titanic at the front of the ship. It was at the back of the ship. But anyway, yeah.
He
but
actually
apparently,
did say to me that it was the captain of the Starship Enterprise that came and helped her, funnily enough.
not everyone knows about that, Alison. Shh, it's a secret. It's a secret. Anyway, yes, it was interesting. That was a two-day photo shoot. But anyway, it was good fun because you'll notice that I think I was in a black shirt when I was interviewed, and I was in a white shirt when I was stranded. But that's why it's not everything's black and white. Sometimes there's a bit of grey there. But anyway, enough of that. Now Pete's given me a list of other things that did happen, so let's have a look. We've got Pete, we've got job ads in Malaysia. What's that about?
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, there was an article that I read about Tesla starting to advertise for some positions in Malaysia. I can't remember exactly what they were, but let me see if I can find it.
I imagine that would be. I don't think Tesla is in Malaysia yet. I don't.
No,
they're in
that's why I
Thailand.
thought it was news. Yes.
And they're in
Where are
Singapore,
we?
so they're basically in between. So Malaysia's
Mm.
sort of planted in between, sort of, in that sense, which is sort of interesting. And then we've got, yes, the phase out of the steering wheel nag. But I think really Elon Musk has just said that they're reducing it according to the safety profile. So if you're in a safe section of road, and I guess perhaps if you're paying more attention, especially if you've got Model 3s or Ys with the interior camera. Because one thing I noticed that if it looks like you're looking down at a mobile phone, you get the nag very, very quickly because the car thinks you're looking at a mobile phone, whether or not you actually are or not, or admit to. The car's really onto you like a seagull to a hot chip. So I think the nag does depend on what you're doing or what you're not doing, which is sort of good. Unless you've got a Model X or an S, which doesn't have the internal camera, and then that doesn't feature as part of that function. Did you find it, Pete? Or I could just keep going down on the list because we've also got one interesting thing. I didn't put it in the
Yes,
news.
I did find.
Oh, yep. Oh, while you're doing that, one interesting one. No,
So
yeah, go on.
yeah, go on.
Oh, okay. So what I was going to say is one interesting thing was that I didn't put it in the news because I tried it on my car and it hasn't come through yet. But there is a version that's coming out. It's come out in the States where you can change the font sizes of the display, so you can have like larger fonts.
Oh,
Because
good.
one complaint was, the speed limit was a little bit, or the speed was a bit small, and the font's quite skinny. I think it's Gotham they use as the font, and it's an attractive, skinny sort of font, but it's not very readable. So it looks like Tesla are coming out with the equivalent, like on iPhones and phones, where you can have larger text or larger font, which would
Oh,
be
bold.
yeah.
So Harold, I've added that link to the video of that. We don't necessarily need to watch the video, but I thought as a public service thing we could do, we could potentially watch the last, say, 20 seconds or 30 seconds of it and debunk some of the misinformation that's been put forward, if that's something that you're willing to do. You don't have to. I just thought that maybe it might be a good opportunity to.
I guess it won't hurt to watch it. It goes for nearly just on 3 minutes. So
I guess the copyright strike you're going to get as well, but I mean.
do you reckon we'll get struck on that?
I mean, we do make $1 million usually per episode, so.
Look, if we get demonetized in this episode, we can afford it, Russell.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well,
Let's
put
do
it this
it.
way, I guarantee it's not going to affect our bank balance. That's for sure. Look, at worst, what will happen is if it's the audio, I think it's only the audio that you actually get done on, and that's normally for songs actually.
yeah.
So do
No,
you
that'd be
recall
no
if there's any music played in the background?
Only the theme song to Old Lang Syne, I think.
Oh no, it's the other one. Yeah. Okay, we'll see how we go. All right.
No, that was a joke. Unless you
Yeah,
carry
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that's
yeah, that's
probably
right.
the only other thing.
All right, let's give it a go.
Electric vehicle owners heading
wanted to
south for
show you
Easter could be
screen and-
facing.
Oh Thanks, Russell. Jesus.
That's all right.
Professional, not. Here we go. Oh, and by the way, that's a Volvo that was plugged in. But anyway.
Numbers of electric vehicle owners heading south for Easter could be facing trouble. Many of the limited chargers in our holiday hotspots haven't been working recently. To make it worse, petrol cars are illegally parking in charging bays, causing chaos. Rick Arden has this exclusive report.
A common sight as electric vehicle sales boom, charging stations out of service in our southwest. WA's electric highway has run into speed bumps. Charging station breakdowns are causing a new phenomenon called range anxiety.
If I end up somewhere with 10 kilometres range left in my car and this happens, I don't know what I'm going to do.
EV charging bays being overtaken for parking is adding to...
Do you reckon you can do like a live react where you pause the video and talk about what they said and say, look, you know, like react to each point they make and say what?
Yeah, so
Steve McRyan style.
that's a good idea, Russell. So that gentleman said if he had 10 kilometres of range left and he got to a place and it didn't work, he wouldn't know what he was going to do. Well,
Silly man.
Phone Carmen.
The thing is, no. Well, the thing is, actually, where he was actually has 3 charging facilities. So there are 2. So let's just rewind this, because where he was actually at the RAC headquarters. So what he just plugged in was one of a dual outlet tritium, but right next to that is actually another dual outlet tritium, and just here, you can't see it. I think it's actually behind his head is a Type 2 charger as well. So there are actually 3 separate sources of power that he could try. And then, of course, failing that, you can just plug into a GPO if you're at your very worst. But not many people would turn up to a strange place that they weren't familiar with just 10 kilometres of range, unless you're sort of,
That's
experienced.
Why I wouldn't know what to do. That's why I wouldn't know what to do.
No, because he hasn't. No, and a normal person would never turn up at 10 kilometres of range at some strange place. So that's just not going to happen. So yeah, good point, Russell. So let's
so if you could stop it at each one of these points, because there's a few points that are actually valid. Like the thing about at the start where they said it's causing chaos or whatever because they're parking illegally. Technically, they're not illegally parking because they're not getting fines, right? So they're parking there. It's not illegal. They're just not.
It's inappropriate. Yeah, that's right. It's inappropriate. Yeah.
And to use the word chaos is probably over dramatizing the severity of the problem. I wouldn't say it's chaos.
No,
I would probably say it's a minor inconvenience in some situations.
And the thing to say that there's a new thing called range anxiety. Well, in fact, actually, range anxiety is ages old, but it doesn't just affect electric cars. In the old days, it used to greatly affect petrol cars because, Carmen did a reenactment of and I forget the car's, what was the car's name, Carmen?
Porsche.
Sorry?
Oh, mine.
Yeah, the one you got your husband had got lovingly rebuilt or newly built as a replica of the original car that went from Adelaide to Darwin.
Oh yes, the Angelina.
The Angelina.
Yeah.
So they had range anxiety because they had to get camels to do fuel dumps of 44-gallon, well, probably not 44-gallon drums, but tins of fuel. So they had massive range anxiety, and there was no alternative. If you didn't have petroleum, you couldn't put wood in it or coal, So all right, so let's just. Yeah, good idea, Russell. When there's little points, either you or I'll stop it, or you tell me.
And this happens, I don't know what I'm going to do.
EV charging bays being overtaken for parking is adding to frustrations.
Well, that's Karrinyup, and
they staged that for sure.
They would have actually, yes. Yeah, I'm just going to be silent.
I reckon that's Rick's Range Rover going into a charging bay.
Alison, that's what I know as well, but I'm glad you said it and not me. So, for anyone watching, it was Alison. Alison said.
Into the electric bay.
Alison said that, not me.
One petrol car took up 4 bays in Bunbury, sparking a revolt by angry EV drivers.
I think it's just bloody selfish.
And this is what range anxiety is all about. Here in Western Australia, there aren't yet enough stations to satisfy the growing demand.
That is dead right. So that is dead right. There are not enough stations anywhere.
Here in Dunsborough, you try to charge at the single station, sometimes it's out of service. With Easter coming, the same has happened in Margaret River, Busselton and as far down as Bridgetown.
At Easter time, everyone is going at once, so the infrastructure just isn't there to keep up with the peak demand.
That's true.
And just can we just note on that as well? He parked in the free charging at Karrinyup. The destination charges there as well. Yeah, just a point that you can have your own interpretation of that.
Absolutely.
Definitely ring the RAC.
Demand.
Replacement parts are hard to get from overseas, and some local councils aren't keen to pay after being gifted the charges by the RAC.
That's dead right as well. And one of the huge problems with this highway, the RAC, the original one, which had the Sercontrol units, that was actually the world's first contiguous electric highway. But one of the biggest problems is they literally gifted, they it was like manna from heaven. They gifted this exotic piece of equipment, expensive exotic piece of equipment to the councils and said, ta-da, this is your baby to look after. And of course, as I've said many times, and as was described in the article earlier, vandalism's a huge issue. And in 10 seconds, you can cause $3,000 of damage to these charges. And then it's up to the council to fix it, when at the time, these charges would not have earned $3,000 of, or sold $3,000 worth of electricity in a year. So it was a bit of a poison pill for the councils, for the RAC to do the easy thing, which was buy the infrastructure, install it, and then gift it. And in fact, in Norway, what's the big, I can't remember the big charging company.
Kempower?
No. It's the network provider. It's the biggest one.
Ionity?
No, not Ionity. It was the other one, I think starting with P, but I could be wrong. Anyway, they basically said that the Norwegian government had given grants to provide the hardware, and that all that the charge provider, the network provider, had to do was keep up the maintenance of these units. And the Norwegian government had subsidies to put them well north, like beyond the Arctic Circle, where there aren't that many people. And they'd worked out, maybe it was Ionity, and they'd worked out that had they done that, they would have gone broke just doing the maintenance operations because they didn't have enough turnover. So they understood that even being gifted the infrastructure was a poison pill at that time.
Also, when the RAC gifted those stations, they still continue to advertise that they introduced the electric highway and they're responsible for it all and how well it's going in their advertising. So they're still benefiting downstream from perception that they're the ones that have this, but really they've just introduced a problem for the councils rather than a solution for the general public. Yeah,
precisely.
Well, the one at the Bull store down south, that one was vandalized and the other one wasn't working because the electrician who installed it didn't know what he was doing.
Well, that
when I
too.
went.
Yeah. So that was the destination charges before the supercharger. Yeah, exactly. No, that's dead right. All right, let's go on.
We were stranded in the wheat belt. The only charger available was didn't have any cables. So it was pretty traumatic for two women by themselves of an evening, and we had to wait for someone from Perth to drive 2 hours to rescue us.
As luck would have it, that someone was Harold Murphy from the Tesla Owners Club. The good news, WA is about to catch up.
There are fast chargers being built in Geraldton to the north and Manjimup to the south, and in the very near future there'll be chargers from Kununurra all the way to Eucla.
Ampol has just opened.
I did not know that he said that. I thought that was a state. That was supposed to be a state secret. So
it's not a secret.
it isn't now. It's been on the news.
And you know, the one thing that Patrick just said when he was speaking about range anxiety, you've got to worry about reliability anxiety, because his brand new Range Rover didn't take him to Margaret River either, may I tell you. It broke down. So if you're in an unreliable car, it doesn't matter if you've got fuel in it. On that note, good night.
Good night, Alison.
Night, Alison.
As it turns out, Alison knew Erin Arden, so she knew the story independently. But yeah, and that was a bit of a state secret because we didn't want to sort of have it widely known that, you know, these things can happen. And they were actually contemplating having the car towed from Brookton, and that would have been a rather expensive tow. So I think it was about 5 o'clock in the evening when Rick actually rang me, and he was getting ready to do the news, and he said, you know, that his wife was stuck with a girlfriend at Brookton. And it was literally because she actually rang ahead to the Brookton Roadhouse and asked about the charger, because she didn't know, it wasn't up to her to know, but she didn't realise it wasn't a fast DC charger. She just knew there was a charger there and didn't realise it needed a Type 2 to Type 2 cable. So I had my Model X, and as luck or bad luck would have it, it was only about 60% charged because I didn't always charge my car every day. So I had to drive 150 k's or whatever it was to Brookton, and then I got Erin to charge the car so the two ladies could go. That took a couple of hours, I think, to charge enough for them to get home. And then once they finished, I had to charge for another couple of hours myself, and I think I got home at about 11:30. So it was a bit of an odyssey. But yeah, I did not realise that was in the news article. This is the first time I've seen it. That's friggin' embarrassing.
It was actually, quite funny because Erin's girlfriend that was in the car with her name's Irene Luck. And
no luck.
Rick said, and luck would have it, just as a...
Yes, as luck would have it and say it. That's right. What a classic. Oh, I did not know that was in there.
You might have to timestamp this, Harry, because this is the best content we've ever had on this channel, this live reaction. Shoot this every week.
That's terrible. I didn't. Anyway, all right, let's keep going. Oy.
Open WA's first petrol station electric Bowser in Belmont, with 12 more stations right behind them. It costs $24 to recharge here, only $12 plugged in at home. And the WA government has tipped in a further $20 million for more fast chargers. They'll take just 14 minutes to charge to 8.
So those numbers they quoted then, so if you say $12 at 30 cents, that's 40 kilowatt hour of charge.
$12 at 30 cents.
Well, that's the typical.
Yeah, 40 kilowatt hours. Yeah, that's what 80% charge.
Yeah, so if you say 40 kilowatt hours at what's the rate at Belmont? How much does it cost?
Oh, 60 cents.
60 cents. Times 0.6, $24. Is that what they said?
Yes.
$24? Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, so the numbers check out. They're comparing apples with apples. That's good.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Let's go.
80%. But be careful of running out of charge. A standard $70,000 Tesla has a range of 420 kilometres, but take off 20%.
Okay.
I like how the standard Tesla is a Model S, by the way.
Yes, that's
okay,
right.
So a standard Tesla for $70,000. Which Tesla are they talking about?
Model Y.
Oh, I suppose it's the. It would have to be one of the rear-wheel drives. So it would have to be the Model 3, but they've got the Model S pictured. So
yes, I understand that. But if you look at the cost of a Model Y drive away, it's 76,000.
Yeah. What's it? Yeah, but what's the price without tax? It's about 70. It's 70,100.
Yeah? Okay, so but if you look at a Model 3, the drive away cost of rear-wheel drive Model 3 before incentives, mind you.
Yep.
Is hang on, let's have a look here. Let me get it up on the screen. Drive rate. So after incentives, 67,000 after incentives, right?
Right.
So they've sort of gone in the middle.
Yeah,
right?
they've gone. Yes. Yeah. So
Right,
yeah,
so
that's right. I think
that's all right. Now they're saying the range is 420 kilometers.
Yes,
Yeah?
that's practical range, I think,
That's about
because
right.
when I discussed it, it was sort of, we're talking about sort of practical-ish range because, yeah, 420, yeah, roughly.
Yep.
Yeah, that's,
But
that's,
they're quoting an LFP battery at the moment,
yes,
right? Okay,
Yes.
so if you want to rewind just like 3 seconds and then listen to the next like sort of 10 seconds.
okay.
Tesla has a range of 420 kilometres, but take off 20% because it shouldn't be charged past 90% or drop below 10%.
Oh, well, that's a
Yeah, so that's a
faux
whole
pas.
lot of crap.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that I think, I'm not sure what car the Ardens have. It's a Model 3, I know that. I don't know whether it's an LFP or a NCA chemistry.
Yeah, they're happy to quote those statistics if they go the car a range of over 500 kilometers. Because if the car had a
Yeah.
range of over 500, then that would be applicable.
Yep.
But below 500, then they're talking LFP.
Yes,
So
and the
if
thing,
it's LFP,
yeah,
then it's really 100% to 10% because people aren't going to go below 10% all the time because it's, you know, a bit risky or
Scary.
like, oh, yeah,
Yep.
you're not going to know what to do. So the fact they've already taken off an additional 10% of battery capacity for no good reason right now.
yep.
Yep. So that's
Well, look,
why.
but I think to be slightly fair to them, you would get under adverse conditions, you'd get 336
Yeah.
Ks
But
on
hang on, but they get to that in a minute. So
But
this
that's
is
not what they're saying.
okay. Yeah,
this
cool.
is the
Okay, no
baseline
worries.
situation right now, and then they'll
Yep.
keep saying more.
Okay, cool. All right.
But hang on, before you play it, what they're also saying is they're not telling you that they're saying you can't charge more than 90%.
But you can, yeah.
That's the
yeah.
whole
Yeah.
the whole idea of an NCA battery is that you charge it to 100% on those long trips. So they're
Yeah.
saying you can't charge it, which is
I,
completely false as well.
and I think the problem is they're probably trying to synthesize, to dumb it down to the simplest sort of terms. And I guess they're
Well,
trying
the
to say,
simplest
well, you
terms
don't.
is you can charge from 0 to 100. That's the simplest terms.
Yeah, well,
Adding
that's
complexity around
right.
90%,
Yeah.
10%. If that was the problem, the manufacturer would put limits in the battery and all you could
Yes.
operate within those limits. And that's what they already
Yep.
do. There's already working capacity on our batteries that we can access. And we have a theoretical 100 and an actual 100 that are two different numbers.
Yep. Okay. All right,
On my
let's-
Holden Volt, I can only access 60% of the battery because the top 20 and the bottom 20 are governed
Go
off.
on. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Percent or drop below 10%. Driving at 110 takes a further 14% off. Rougher highways,
that.
10% more.
Okay, so
No.
so he's saying with those numbers already of 400 and whatever kilometers, he's saying that's not at 110 kilometers an hour. So the original range of the Model 3 WLTP was 491. We're reducing it to 420 because of those highway driving speeds. And he's hit it again with that same factor of the road, of the speed.
Oh no,
on
I
top of it.
disagree with that, Russell. I think he's right because a standard range wouldn't necessarily get 420 on a chip seal road, you know, north of Perth. So I'm perfectly happy with.
Yeah, no. So I agree with that. What I'm saying is though, so if you're driving 110 k's an hour down to Mark River or something, you wouldn't get 420, is what you're saying?
Correct.
You'd get less than that.
You get less than that in a standard range.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the 420 figures would be quoted on city driving at low speed.
yeah.
So
So,
for
yeah.
instance, when we went from Fitzroy Crossing to Broome, that's 400 kilometres on the nose.
Okay.
And our Model Ys, notwithstanding that while we were driving around Australia, our battery buffer went from sort of like 3 kilowatt hours to bloody 10, nearly 11 kilowatt hour buffer, which kind of really kills your indicated range, or at least, yeah, well, not indicated, but your actual range before it looks like it's going to go to zero. But it's 400 Ks only. Tesla says on their website that a standard range Model Y, a rear wheel drive Model Y, gets 455 kilometres. But when you get the car brand new and you fill it up to 100%, it says 432. So it never even said the 455 that is still on their website today. And to get 400 Ks on that section of road, you cannot be doing anywhere near 110 Ks an hour. So when I did it, I left early in the morning and got to Broome mid-morning, and I started off at 70 k's an hour for a little bit just to sort of get some runs on the board, and then sped up to 80, and that was good because there were kangaroos around. It was dark, and then sped up to 90. But I don't think I hit much more than 90 k's an hour to get the 400. To be honest, so that was crappy chip seal outback road.
So just say I drive around the suburbia all day, 60, 70 k's an hour. I'm going to get about 420, right?
Yes, and so these projections aren't quite right. The 247, that you're not going to get as bad as 247. But for example, I've driven on Tonkin Highway and Reed Highway or something like that, and I was getting at the speed limit. So that's those sections at 100, and there's sections at 90, and I think some sections at mostly 190 k's an hour. I've done 50 kilometres on those two highways, and I've gotten an average consumption of like 128 watt hours, which is just awesome. But and I've gone on sections of the Hume Highway, Pete's probably done the same thing, at the speed limit, which I think is 110, and gotten well below 150 watt hours per kilometre, which again is really good. And yet you go up north and you'll get 200 watt hours going anywhere near the speed limit. So it's a huge difference. It really is. And it's not always speed. It can be just the road conditions. It can, to be honest. But I think some of these numbers, as they keep cascading lower and lower.
So far they've said minus 10% for driving at speed, 110, fair enough. We can agree with that. We've said minus 10% for rough road, right? Which, okay, cool. Let's go with that. That's subjective, but that's good enough. The next one is probably one that's
Okay, let's see what that is.
And using aircon another 5%, leaving a potential range just above 200 kilometres in the country. Future models should have a range up to 600 kilometres. If you're stranded, at least you'll be entertained while you wait.
All right, so based on the previous discussion of air conditioning, do we really think the aircon's going to take 5% of your battery?
Well, once again, it's so subjective. I mean, depends on, are you doing that on a 42-degree day, or is it 24 degrees? Or
so the reason why I'm saying this is when they looked at the price of the car and the range, they got, it's about 70,000 or whatever. They're right down the middle. They're taking the average. Then with all these assumptions, they've gone worst case.
The worst. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, so aircon. I've seen my aircon because I've got ScanLight Tesla and stuff. I've seen it draw 2 kilowatts easily on occasions, right?
Yeah.
Now, the car can roughly take about 15 kilowatts to do the speed limit. So if you get 2 kilowatts divided by 15, that's 13%.
Okay.
Maximum. So depending on conditions, it could be like 5% is probably quite reasonable, but it could be less than 5%. And the thing too is the big difference. So even though 5%'s a lot, a much bigger difference is if you reduce your speed by 10%, you increase your range by 14%, which then makes the 5% a third of that gain. So you're much better off slowing down a little bit, even by 10%, because that will be 3 times better than turning your aircon off. So, or the other way of thinking about that is, if you think turning your aircon is useful, just reduce your speed by 3 k's an hour, and that'll do the same effect. And then don't be slow and sweaty. Drive a bit slower and be in comfort. So
sorry, you go, Harold.
So 2 seconds. So when I did the Tennant Creek to Camberwell 471 kilometres in a Model X that could never do more than 380, 100% full, I did do the first 50 k's at 60 k's an hour, the second 50 k's at 65 k's an hour, and the final 371 k's at 70 k's an hour. I had the aircon set to 21 and a Waco fridge full of beers at -2, because I didn't mind going slowly, but I wasn't going to sweat. And I still did 471 k's in a car that could never do that. So just go slower, don't sweat. So 5%, actually, to be honest, Russell, 5% is probably spot on. I think
Okay.
that's
So the number they got at the end, what was the actual number? 240.
235, I mean, unless you were heading into a really strong headwind, and with rain and everything else, you'd get a lot more than 235.
No, it was less than that. Keep going.
And using aircon, another 5%, leaving a potential.
214. All right. So how from the city of Perth, from the CBD, what if you head south? What's 216 kilometres away?
50 k's down Bunbury, so Busselton. I'm at a very rough guess, probably.
Yeah. So if you would say to someone, I want to head to Busselton on the weekend, you say, oh, what do you got? Oh, I've got a Model 3 or a Model Y. Like, oh, you're going to be pushing your luck with that. Of course not. It's going to be like easily going to make it.
Yeah. So look, that 214 k's from the one that said 420 indicated, it'd be closer to 300. So I'd say, all things considered, it's closer to 300 k's. So all of those compounding factors they're only half as bad as they show. So you'll get 3/4 without towing. You'll get 3/4 in most conditions. So if your car can do 420 k's, you will be able to get 300 k's regardless, as long as you're not speeding. But yeah, and it won't be as bad as 214. No.
Yeah. So all the good stuff they did before that, they've essentially finished off with, this is why we don't recommend to buy an EV, because you're only going to get 200 kilometers. And for the everyday person, they'd be like, fucking 200 kilometers, I feel like every 600 kilometers. There's no way I'm going to buy one of those. I don't think it's really.
Look, I think they coloured it. I think the intention was that the EVs don't do their headline distance, but I think they compounded some things that are codependent, and it doesn't always follow that you just keep adding everything linearly, because it depends on conditions and all that sort of stuff. In reality, and look, we're going to do some tests, but in reality, worst case. Oh, having said that, look, Pete, what were you getting? And this is an extreme case, so it's important to note that. But when Pete was punching through Merredin on the way to Perth, coming home, what were you getting? You were getting 220 watt hours or something ridiculous.
Correct, and that was in very strong headwind and really heavy rain. And this, if they're saying that you're going to get 226 k's out of your battery, out of a 60 kilowatt hour battery, that means that's suggesting an efficiency of 222, watt hours per kilometre. So, they're basically taking into account the roughest road, the worst rain, and the worst headwind.
Well, in fact, if you presume that Pete's car had a deliverable capacity of 58 kilowatt hours, which is a lot.
Let me just correct that. That's based on 270 watt hours per kilometre.
Is that what you got?
No. I got 220, but they're saying you get 226k if they're basing that on a 60 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah. So well, I just
270 watt hours.
Well, what I just calculated was, let's call it 58 kilowatt hours usable, right? Because your car's going to be starting to yell at you when it's down to 50. If you've consumed 58 kilowatt hours, that's a lot, right? Yeah. Out of a 60 kilowatt hour pack. If you consume that at a rate of 220 watt hours per kilometre, well, guess what? The range you're going to get is 264 kilometres.
There you go. Yeah.
And just another slight little variation on all this. Have you ever seen a nice car achieve its rated fuel consumption?
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. No. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, I mean, precisely. But so in this extreme case, when Pete was punching through and there were extreme conditions, he would have made a total of 263 kilometres out of a fully full battery.
Yeah.
So, which is why it's important to have these charges at 200 kilometre intervals, because for almost all circumstances, that's enough to be able to replenish.
Although,
Because if you can,
if they didn't say refer this to a Tesla, the numbers they're quoting is probably more accurate to the vehicles going to be coming into Australia soon. The MGs, the
Yeah, but-
BYDs, those
Yeah,
cars.
but Russell, 2/3 of all EVs in WA are Teslas.
Yeah, I understand that.
It makes no sense to quote any other car.
Yeah. So that's not quite my point. I guess the point is, if he's trying to say a story about, hey, we need more charging because cars can only go 200 kilometers, is that where he's trying to get at, or is he trying to diss the cars because they don't go far enough unless you go
no,
further?
I think he was dissing. No, I think what he was dissing was the charging network, to be honest, because that was the whole main premise of the actual segment was not only is there a lack of chargers, there's a lack of reliable chargers, and then that can induce range anxiety, and that can be exacerbated by the fact that the range you actually get isn't necessarily the range that's the nameplate. And when you combine all those factors, then you can have disaster. But I think they could have explained it a little bit better. And look, like I said, I would have taken it from 420 down to 300.
Yeah.
Except for the most extreme case where Pete has shown that it could be as low as 263. You know, and that's the truth. That was 264. That is the truth.
So the 10% stuff, I think that was all fine. I think the biggest difference here is when they've taken off 20% of the battery capacity.
Oh yes,
it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
That's what's caused all this problem.
Russell, what they should have said is the WLTP range is advertised at 490, but EVs are the opposite of ICE cars, in which means that they actually have better efficiency in the city than they do on a long straight road. On a long straight road, especially if it's quite noisy and rough, your range will, go from the 420 that you might get in the city in real life down to about 300. In a real extreme case where you're confronted by headwind and stroke rains, it might be as little as 260. If they said that, they would have been spot on, and we would have there wouldn't have been anything that we could have picked, picked out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what they should have said.
Yeah. So where have you got that information about the battery capacity stuff? Because someone's given him bum steer, because I can't imagine he would have looked that up himself. I'm sure someone would have told him that and he would have just gone with it, which is a bit unfortunate. But I mean, I can see what the article's trying to get at, but realistically, the takeaway for me is that they finished the story on a downer about how shit the range is in electric vehicles, and that's the thing that's going to stick with people when they finish that article, not that they need more charges.
It's very unfortunate the way they did it.
Yeah, because the rest of it was actually pretty good. Like your commentary, it's all pretty accurate what they're talking about. Just that last essentially 15 seconds that really ruined it for me. Yeah.
Now, I think
they had a bit of a dig at a Tesla by saying, well, at least you can keep yourself entertained, and then they use that footage of Harold's car doing the light show. That's, I'm sure if they asked you, can we use that footage in this context, Harold, you would have said, no, I don't think I'm happy for that footage.
No, you'd say, yeah, of course, because my car has got reserved battery just for light shows that I can't access until I run out of battery. So you're perfectly correct. Because that's all I'd be doing when I'm out of battery is running light shows, just because I can.
Exactly. Because I can afford the electrons, because, Now, Pete did touch on some good news, and I have actually got the December 2022 and September registration data. And the great news is that as of the September quarter, there were precisely 3,412 Teslas registered in WA. And then 3 months later, at the end of the December quarter of 2022, there were 4,302. So I think Rob Dean and Pete Petrosky actually predicted they guesstimated about 4,000, which is less than 10% error, which is really good. So that's really good news.
To add to that, there was a notification. I'm not sure if it's true or not, and I don't know if you know anything. You can't say anything, but there was the 50,000th Tesla
Correct.
entered Australia to the Perth port last week or this week, whenever it was, and potentially one of the vehicles waiting to be picked up at the delivery centre in Osborne Park at the moment is the 50,000th vehicle.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Is there a possibility that someone's going to get $50,000 free? Probably not. I'm just making, you never know. Who knows? Anyway, but do you think
Tesla are known for that sort of stuff?
They might.
Richard Chapman, I am picking up Richard Chapman's car tomorrow. Just FYI.
Oh, jeez.
Got the wrong Richard.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Richard Cooper. Sorry. Richard Cooper. Richard Cooper's. I'm picking up Richard Cooper's performance model. I don't even know what colour it is. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
Although, while I'm here,
which I only found out about 2 hours ago. So because he literally just booked it. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow or Friday?
Tomorrow.
Right.
Jeez.
I checked twice. I didn't. In fact, I'm looking up when I look up at the.
Do you reckon you can pick mine up too? I mean, this is pretty special.
At the chat. No, because at the chat, he goes, can you please confirm your availability to get my car at 10 tomorrow? And I go Thursday ? But I misspelled it. I put third say, and then I put Thursday, and then he said yes, tomorrow 10 a.m.
All I asked for me was something really minor, and they're rolling out all the red carpet for you, Harold. I tell you.
No. I'm not getting my car tomorrow. This is Richard.
I know you're not.
Cooper's.
But I can guarantee you, if you weren't the one picking it up, Richard would be waiting until next week.
Well, I had mine delivered home.
Well, yeah. Well, so did I.
Harry.
Richard Chapman's Model X was delivered to my door by a gentleman who flew in. His name is, oh my God,
Gustav.
I've forgotten it. I'm really sorry, but it's okay. He's no longer a salesman. He's like 2 IC at Tesla, so he's not that important.
Isn't he in jail now? Didn't he get done for trading?
No, he didn't.
Someone
No,
else.
and we won't. No, that the convicted criminal, Kurt Schlosser, was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment and then immediately released upon his own recognizance and walked out, completing his sentence. Or it was suspended for a period of 2 years, providing he doesn't commit any other offence. So that was the convicted
Insider
criminal, Kurt Schlosser, for insider trading on 2 counts. One count that he bought enough. What was the shares? The lithium company.
Mining company.
Company. He made $28,000 profit on doing insider trading of shares, and his second convicted offence was he told a mate of his about the same thing. So anyway, no, it wasn't him. It was Owen Jones. It was Owen Jones, who now I believe is fairly high up in Tesla Australia. He flew from the Brisbane branch and hand delivered the car, and the other 2 cars went to Annie Atkins, 2 Model X's, Annie Atkins and Peter Sampson, but they collected the cars from Auto Nexus in Canning Vale. So that's how I got my car, hand delivered. But
So
anyway.
potentially there's going to be a fanfare for you there tomorrow with big balloons, 50,000 in gold, like the milestone delivery, like where they do 5,000 cars in a week. They'll have those same balloons up for you. You rock up and there'll be champagne bottles and there'll be all sorts.
I say, look, I'd love to attend, but I've got to wash my hair. I'm really sorry. It takes a long time to dry.
I heard they're even going to have one of those Shiba Inu dogs with some like Dogecoin, like plaques around everything. It's going to be mental.
The car will be called Loki. It'll be called
Channel
Loki.
7 might be even there.
Channel 7 will be there. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Elon will fly in for the special occasion as well.
Absolutely. Well, he's just visited China, so he's probably just going to, do a fuel stop in Perth. Yeah, exactly.
No, well,
Two
maybe
chances.
the the Australian what's her title? Is it CF? No, not CFO. It's
Siva.
What's
she's the CEO. Robin
the
Denholm.
Chairman. Robin Denholm. Chairman. Is it?
She's not the. She's a chairwoman. She's not the CEO.
Sorry,
Elon
chair.
Musk is a
Chair.
King. Yeah. So
Yep.
she's
She's a
due
chair,
for a
yeah.
holiday in Australia again. Maybe she's aligning that holiday with this event just because she knows how important you are to the cause.
Look, I would never admit that Robin and I were besties. Just saying, I'd never admit that. Nor would I have to. Yeah, I think it's just fictitious, Russell. I don't think it'd make sense for Tesla to celebrate the 50,000th car here, unless that's what actually happened. But
So
what's the chances of that?
Hypothetically, just say the 50,000th car was delivered to Australia this month, somewhere across Australia.
Yep.
Do you think there will be a formal recognition by Tesla that there's 50,000 vehicles in Australia?
Have they ever done 40 or 10 or anything?
The reason why is because Robin said that thing before about doubling the current fleet
Yeah, yeah.
size, and that doubling was going to get to 50,000 essentially.
Yeah,
right?
it was. Yeah.
So I'm not
And
sure.
she was a
whether-
bit late, wasn't she?
She said that by the end of the year.
Yeah, she was a bit late.
Yeah.
I don't think Tesla has ever celebrated any milestone delivery in Australia, like not the first 1,000 or 10,000 or any 1,000. So
Why don't we just do it? Why don't we just claim my car as a 50,000th one? I'll bring the balloons. We'll set up some cameras. We'll take some photos. We'll put it on Facebook. Everyone will believe it. It'll be proper legit. We can call Rick back. He can get his propaganda army onto it. It's going to be fantastic. And then everyone's going to believe it. We'll get Clean Technica. We'll get electric. We'll get the Viking. We'll get everyone will rock up.
well, the thing is,
At 2 million cars a year, that's only 10 days worth of production.
It's less than a fraction of 1%.
But what it
is.
means, this is the inflection point for Australian electric vehicle uptake, in my opinion.
Well,
because this is the point where it goes from being on the fringe to being far more mainstream.
You're right, Russell.
So the consequent, the implications, or the, I don't know, whatever I'm not sure what it is, but the it's not just 50,000. It's actually, it means more than just a 50,000 car. It's
we're right at the bottom of the hockey stick, and right at the beginning of the exponential growth curve.
Well, consider this: in the end of the September quarter last year, we had 3,412 Teslas in Western Australia. At the end of the 3 months later, we had 4,302. That's a 26% growth of the entire Tesla fleet in 3 months.
Yeah, but some of those shipments were due the year before, so they sort of went in.
But this is from the September quarter.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
This is Q3 2022. The entire fleet of Teslas consisted of 3,412 cars, and 3 months later, that fleet grew by 26%.
So it's actually the opposite argument that's true, because it should have grown more, because there was at least one shipment which was missed, which didn't get into
Precisely.
and came in January.
That's
Q1.
right. So it would have grown even more. But even if we just call 26% is a massive improvement.
Mm.
Well,
we might not
Put
replicate.
it this way. So in New Zealand, the percentage of new cars sold that were EVs was 2% in January last year, and was closer to 20% by Christmas. The percentage in Australia in 2022 was 3.88%. And in February or March, I can't remember now, we were at just under 7%. So that's 100% growth month on month, if you look at it in terms of percentage of new car sales. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get to 20% by Christmas, just like New Zealand did. And, for 1 in every 5 cars sold in Australia to be EVs, that's as mainstream as it gets.
It's something that's
at the beginning of the growth curve. Yeah.
Well, something that's really strange is, and my wife Rochelle actually commented on this, is, you know, she's getting a performance car as so am I, and I think she's presuming it's because it's a different color car or something, but suddenly all her staff members are super keen on sitting in her car, whereas they haven't expressed that sort of thing weeks ago. But I think it's got nothing to do with the fact that it's a different coloured car coming, because I haven't seen that car yet, and it's actually, it looks identical. It's just a different colour, and the other one goes faster. I think it's just
that you'd be in the passenger seat, or
I'm still trying to get over the fact that I just saw Rick Arden just out me. Anyway, I'm dealing with it slowly, Russell. I mean, not everyone could be as popular as yourself, but no, I think it's.
The passenger seat when they rock up.
Yes, Russell.
I think it's literally. There's this tsunami of changed interest. Like, it's just that Tesla's gone from what is that to whatever to oh yeah to oh my God, I can't believe how good it is. Like, and it's just happening as before our eyes, like in a matter of months and weeks. It's just going to go berserk.
One anecdotal bit of evidence that's been quite surprising to me just over the last few weeks, as you say, Harold, was, you know, we always talk about, you know, how, you know, 3-4 years ago when I got my car, or 5 or 6 years ago when you got yours, you know, when I got my Holden Volt, there's only 41 of them that were in WA, and you'd see that car once every 4 months, and, you know, you'd wave to each other and blah, blah. And that's what the Teslas were like. And now, you know, you can't not see 6, 7, 8 of them on a, you know, 20-minute, half an hour drive, wherever you go in Perth. And that's, you know, you'd expect people that have Teslas or are looking at buying a Tesla to be saying that. But I've had 2 different people, completely unrelated, that have got no interest in Teslas, that aren't interested in buying one now, or it's not even on their radar. And, you know, they've seen my car and went, oh, you know, you've got a Tesla. I've noticed this everywhere in the last few weeks. And for someone that's not interested, you know, in Teslas, for them to say that they've been seeing them all over the road, I think that speaks volumes. So, you know, for people that aren't interested in them, for them not to be able to not notice them, that's massive.
And everyone does. I've had a reason to see a lot of people recently, and they come out of the woodwork and they know I've got a Tesla, and they go, oh, we just see Teslas everywhere. And again, like you say, Pete, they're not people that are necessarily interested overtly in the technology and all that stuff. But it's the same as a little fruit company bought out a flat screen phone that looked really boring, and he didn't even have an answer button on it. And yeah, there were the enthusiasts and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people poo-pooed it and went, look how expensive it is, blah, blah, blah. Well, now everyone's got one. You know, to within a rounding error of a percentage point, everyone has a smartphone. So the same thing's happening to Tesla. It's just, and other EVs, but, you know, it's not Tesla's fault that they make better cars than everyone else at a better value proposition.
Back to one point before, Harold. When you go in to see Harry tomorrow, could you please talk to him about me bringing in some balloons to celebrate the 50,000th car being delivered to a customer in Australia? And if he's got no objection, I'll happily bring in the balloons, the fanfare, and make a scene of it. Because I reckon we could probably get a bit of promotion for the Owners Club as part of this. Maybe do a little interview, talk about what I did on the weekend.
Well, we could fake it until we made it. We just allege it to be the truth until it becomes the truth.
I used
just
to
do a Donald Trump.
I used to run events, right? And I held the World Championships, and there's nothing they could do about it because I was the World Champion. Anyone in the world could come. Just because the people in Perth decided to come, that wasn't anyone else's fault. And I named a world champion, and like no one questioned it because it is what it is. I don't
Open
think
category, wasn't it? It was an open competition, open to
it was.
anyone.
So Tesla don't comment on anything generally, and I doubt we're going to get sued for it. So I think that if they do go to Tesla and ask for it, they're going to go no comment, and they'll have to take our word for it.
Except this is being recorded, and if they did want to sue, their lawyer would go, "You got a pretty good case." and
But what can
and
they
they know
sue
that.
for?
Plus, what they might invite us to do is, I will just forfeit your Tesla shares, mate, because they're worth a couple.
What's the worst that can
Ladies
happen?
and gents,
honestly?
I've got to head off. So
All right, so-
All right.
I think
We'll
it's
catch up with you
Take
later.
care,
it's
Colin.
time to wind up.
Let me just see what the time is.
11:07.
Oh, hang on, we don't know that yet.
7:20 seconds.
Cool.
At the third stroke, it will be 11:30 seconds.
All right. Well, that is getting a bit later. This episode already is longer than Ben
Can you at
Hur.
least ask? Because I think it's just something that they might even have the answer. They might say, yeah, it is. If they say, all right, we're trying to find a car. All right, Russell will do it. He's a good guy.
Well,
Get
I
his shirt off.
have
It'd be
promised
fantastic.
when I collect my car, I'm going to take Harry for a spin, because I mean none of the sales guys have been in a performance. Why? Because there are no this
All right,
first
tell
batch.
Harry-
There's
Tell Harry, I'll take him for a spin. Personally,
if he can be 50,000.
Yeah, and I'll make it worth his while.
You just have to say that in your opinion, that is the amount sold, and you're
Yeah,
free.
yeah.
You're okay.
Okay, it's alleged that it's 50,000th vehicle.
It's been alleged. We found them guilty. No, we found you guilty of being the 50,000th person, Russell, in a kangaroo court. That's what we did.
Yeah.
We just made it happen because we faked it
Honestly,
till we made it.
Even if it wasn't the 50,000s and they say it's not, what is the worst that can happen? They go, oh, it wasn't. Okay, cool. No,
Oh,
sorry.
really? That's what I thought.
Well, I'm not actually like calling anyone an idiot or anything here. I'm just saying that my car's 50,000. I'll say right now, it's the 50,000s, guys. Like, that's it. I've been told. A little birdie told me I heard it. Was it people with knowledge of the matter have informed me that my car is
Sources familiar with the matter.
Yeah.
Well-informed sources.
Yep.
Ah, all right. Well, I'm very well informed that this is about the end of the show. So, which next week we'll make we might as well make it the delivery special edition of the
50,000th
show.
Delivery special, I think it should be.
And there'll be other celebrations to do with the WEV network as well that we'll be able to show as well. But that's just a little Easter egg for those that watch the end of this video. So pro tip, fellas, and ladies, just watch the first bit and scroll right to the end because you usually get the juicy bits. So, Pete, how would you round out this awesome show?
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, and stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, especially the 50,000th one. Join Tokwa to be our 1000th financial member and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. We look forward to seeing you next week on Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
See you guys. Nice work.